Rebuilding the Immortal Cultivation family. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226 Naming. The Nanya Chamber of Commerce is coming with great momentum. It has already opened a large number of shops in other places, grabbing nearly 30% of their market share, and this proportion is still rising. How can Zhuanfa Pavilion tolerate this? Unfortunately, the strength of the two chambers of commerce is almost the same. They simply cannot destroy each other, and can only compete with them by commercial means. And the 10,000 miles of Shanli Mountain is the only place in the Dongzhaozuxin world that does not have a Nanya Chamber of Commerce store, except for Zhuanfazhao where Zhuanfa Pavilion's headquarters is located. They will never allow Nanya Chamber of Commerce to get involved. At the same time, Zhuanfa Pavilion is already preparing a team to enter the Nanzhaozuxin world like the Nanya Chamber of Commerce, directly attack their territory, and force them to shrink their forces to relieve pressure. When Yuan Mingzhuang got the news from Zhuanfa Pavilion, Mingling immediately showed a sneer on his face and said, "The Li family, with 3 giant cultivators, can get along with all the big forces and seek benefits. The Li family has always been cautious, so Zhuanfa Pavilion is just suspicious, but has no evidence." Zheng Xianming frowned and said, "They are not going to waste energy on the Li family now, so they threw this matter on us and prepared to kill with a borrowed knife. Brother, it is undeniable that this is indeed a good opportunity to destroy the Li family." Mingling took the initiative to volunteer and stood up and said, "Leave this matter to me. I will definitely find evidence and let the Li family cut off its inheritance from now on." Zheng Xianming glanced at his junior brother. He was originally a proud person. Seeing that the original vassal of Yuan Mingzhuang had grown step by step to this point, even surpassing Yuan Mingzhuang, his heart was already full of resentment. In addition, Li Zhirui's behavior at the previous auction further aroused his anger. Unknowingly, the Li family became his obsession. Although the influence of this obsession is far from reaching the level of the inner demon, there is no doubt that it has caused certain obstacles to his cultivation. "Go, hide your body well, and don't conflict with the Li family," Zheng Xianming couldn't help but remind him. If it was in Yuanming Mountain, there would be no need to worry about the Li family taking action, but if you were alone in the outside world, once the Li family discovered your traces, you might be killed by the 3 giants of the other party. If this really happened, then the Yuanming sect would really be in danger of destruction. "Don't worry, senior brother, I won't joke about the inheritance of the sect," Mingling said solemnly. After that, he turned into rainbow light, left Yuanming Mountain, and flew towards the Banyan Island. The Nanya Chamber of Commerce has started selling Xingyun Dan. Maybe someone is watching secretly nearby. "Second grandpa, you have to be more careful when you go out to trade." After hearing about this in the main hall, Li Zhirui said with some concern. Li Shiking laughed and said, "Ha, don't worry. A few months ago, Shilian and I dug a tunnel that can directly enter the boundless sea from the Daring Island. The possibility of being discovered is too low. If you can really be discovered by escaping into the boundless sea and then appearing from the sea hundreds of miles away from the Daring Island, it can only mean that the Li family's luck is low and it is not far from decline." Hearing this, Li Zhirui was indeed relieved. Although the possibility of being exposed cannot be ruled out 100%, it has indeed been greatly reduced. And this is exactly the case. Mingling had near the Daring Island for several months, and did not find that the Li family sent people to contact and trade with the Nanya Chamber of Commerce, even if he arranged many disciples. Seeing that there was no news coming back, Zheng Xianming knew that it would be a waste of time to continue, so he called Mingling and others back. "Junior brother, don't waste time anymore. Cultivation is the foundation." Seeing Mingling's unwilling face, Zheng Xianming rarely showed his stern side. Mingling was stunned after hearing this. After a long time, with a change of his aura, he bowed and said, "I know. Thank you, senior brother." "Good." Zheng Xianming was overjoyed. He didn't expect Mingling to have a breakthrough in his state of mind because of this. This means that the door to the middle stage of the Golden Core has been opened to him. The Li family is still low-key and conducting underground transactions with the Nanya Chamber of Commerce. The emergence of a large number of Xingyun pills has made Li Zhirui's strength grow rapidly. As for the 2 old men, Li Shiking and Li Shilian, although the family has accumulated a lot of Xingyun pills, They are unwilling to take them, but prepare to give them to Li Zhirui and the subsequent Jinden clan members. No matter how Li Zhirui and others persuaded, the two old men were unwilling to give in. In the end, they could only follow their wishes and seal up the extras in getting pills. Spring goes and autumn comes, time passes slowly, and in the blink of an eye, 5 years have passed. In the past 5 years, with the efforts of the three Jinden, the Daring Island has been completely merged with the Redwood Island, Jiuquan Island, and Blue Mountain Island, forming a sea and land island that spans hundreds of miles and is larger than Yunping's Hao. Such a vast area is enough for the Li family to develop for hundreds of years without worrying about insufficient land. Moreover, a part of the spiritual stones earned by the Li family every year will be allocated to generate spiritual veins on the island, so that now there is a relatively weak spiritual energy in every corner of the Daring Island. With the changes in the Daring Island, voices began to appear in the family to change the name. After all, the name of the Daring Island is too ordinary. Li Zhirui also thought so he vigorously promoted the renaming of the Daring Island, and was recognized by Li Zhirui, Li Shiqing and others. Why don't we let everyone participate? After submitting their names, we will have the first round of selection. The top 5 with the highest number of votes will enter the second round, and then the first place will be decided, Li Zhirui suddenly said, and in this selection process, some good names, even if they don't become the names of new islands in the end, can be used to name mountains and rivers in various places. The terrain of the Banyan Island, which integrates many islands, is now very strange and disorderly. It is indeed not appropriate to have no name. The Li family also wants to open up a piece of plains, or gather the peaks in one place to maximize the use of the land. In this way, whether it is for mortals to open up farmland, or to plant spiritual medicine, and raise spiritual beasts, it is excellent. But there is no way. The Li family only has the magical power of moving islands, not the magical power of moving mountains, and cannot change the terrain on a large scale. Moreover, unlike the former, the latter is not a small magical power, and it is definitely not something that the current Li family can get. And because of Li Zhirui's proposal, the naming has evolved into a grand event for the entire family. All the tribesmen actively participated in the event, hoping that the name they chose could become the new name of Daring Island, or at least the name of a mountain or a river on the island. After all, once selected, it would be something worth bragging about for countless years. Thank you for your support. Today is the 5th day of the first lunar month, and we welcome the God of Wealth. I wish everyone great fortune. Chapter 227 Development. After several days of selection, 5 names entered the second round, namely Wuxin, Wanling, Qinglian, Zuanling and Penglai. The last name was chosen by Li Zhirui, but there is no legend of the 3 immortal islands of Penglai in this world. The reason why it was able to enter the second round was entirely because everyone knew that the name came from Li Zhirui. In order to make this giant and cultivator look good, Li Zhirui made some secret operations and let Penglai enter the second round. The final selection did not last long and ended in just 1 day. In the evening of the same day, Li Zhirui announced the new name of the Banyan Island in front of all the clansmen. Wuxin Island, Li Zhirui said loudly, I hope that my Li family can be like this name and give birth to 10,000 immortals. Wuxin Island, everyone cheered, especially the clansman who came up with this name, who was even more excited. Although he was just a key training cultivator, with the confirmation of this name, he will be recorded in the history of the family and exist with the inheritance of the Li family. In addition to determining the name of the clan and expanding the area of Wuxin Island, the Li family has also made considerable gains in other aspects in the past 5 years. First of all, the number of clan members is increasing. With the increase in the number of mortals, according to last year's census, there are at least more than 1 million mortals on Wuxin Island. The number of children who test their spiritual roots every year is also increasing. Among them, children with the blood of the Li family have accounted for 80%, or even 90%. After all, over the past few decades, at the reproduction rate of mortals, at least 2 generations have passed, and this has given the Li family enough room for manipulation. And with a large base, even if there are only 1 in 1,000 people with spiritual roots, it will bring a lot of fresh blood to the Li family every year. But it is quite regrettable that even though a large number of children enter the Linghu Academy every year, no genius with dual spiritual roots is born, as if Li Zhirui, Li Zhiyu, and Li Chengru have exhausted the luck of the Li family over the years. As the number of clan members increased, the Li family began to gradually recover the spiritual fields on the original Jiuquan Island. They no longer rented them to the independent cultivators for cultivation, but directly let the clan members rent them, or simply let the family take charge and issue tasks to the clan members. In the future, part of the original Blue Mountain Island will be recovered, and the remaining spiritual fields will become a place for independent cultivators to gain a foothold on Wongsan Island, just like Redwood Island, a huge market. After all, the development of the family cannot rely solely on itself. It needs to collect wealth from other cultivators, and independent cultivators are the best targets. While the basic strength has increased dramatically, the development of high-end combat power is not slow. Li Zhirui, Li Zhirui and others have successively entered the late stage of foundation building and have the opportunity to impact the golden elixir. Li Zhirui, Li Zhirui and others have also been in the middle stage of foundation building for many years, and it won't take long for them to go further. The number of foundation building cultivators has also been steadily increasing because of the cooperation with the Nanya Chamber of Commerce, and a batch of foundation building pills can be traded privately every year. The only pity is that Li Zhirui, who has broken through the late stage of foundation building for many years, has not found the opportunity to break through the golden elixir. She also went out to train a year ago, hoping to find an opportunity to break through the shackles from the terror of life and death. While the Li family is growing, other forces have not stagnated. Let's not talk about the distant ones for now. Just talk about Yuan Mingzhuang. They seem to have entered a period of rapid development. First, Mingling broke through the middle stage of the golden elixir, and then received 2 double spiritual root disciples. This brought a certain sense of urgency to the Li family, but that's all. After all, Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui have been developing for many years, and the Li family has concealed their intelligence well. Yuan Mingzhuang is not very clear, otherwise they would not be complacent about it, or even make a big fuss. Ding ding ding. One day, Li Zhirui, who was investigating the situation in Daking, suddenly heard a rapid bell sound. His expression was startled, and then a trace of sadness emerged. 3 long bell sounds, which means that a clan member who has made great contributions to the development of the family has died. Li Zhirui could also think of this person, that is Elder Li Zhirui, who was very kind to him at the beginning. But when he came to the main hall, he knew that it was not only Li Zhirui who had passed away, but also Li Shiki, the first general affairs elder. Li Zhirui was also very familiar with this elder, because this was the general affairs elder he established when he was the acting patriarch. Regardless of which of them, they have made indelible contributions to the development of the family. In fact, with the cultivation of these 2 elders, it is already the limit to be able to live to this day. Except for Li Shiqing and Li Xilian, the other people of the same generation as them have already passed away. As long as the clansmen on the island all rush to the family cemetery, Li Zhizhan said in public about the achievements and contributions of the 2 elders. As latecomers, we must not forget the efforts of our ancestors. Work hard for the rise of the Li family, work hard for the rise of the Li family. In the solemn and solemn venue, in front of the graves of the ancestors, all the clansmen chanted in a deep voice, and their voices resounded through the sky and spread dozens of miles away with the wind. Because of the death of the 2 elders, Li Zhirui was in a low mood for a few days, but soon, he was dispelled by a huge surprise. That is, after so many years of accumulation, Daking is finally moving towards the 3rd level. You know, in order to make Daking break through as soon as possible, Li Zhirui invests a lot of resources in him every year. If he gives it to the tribesmen, within 3 years, a mid-stage foundation building person will break through to the late stage of foundation building. It can be seen that Li Zhirui has consumed a huge amount of resources. If he is not a 3rd-level alchemist, the success rate of the 2nd-level elixir is already as high as 90%. If he does not have a heaven-defying treasure like space, it is impossible to do it. Fortunately, all this is worth it after the final result appears. The birth of a 3rd-level spirit beast, comparable to golden elixir, is more important than 10 late-stage foundation building people. Gee. I'm going to sleep. After expressing this meaning, Daking could no longer hold on and closed his eyes heavily. Not long after, a strong suction came out from his body, swallowing the rich spiritual energy in the cave. If Li Zhirui's cave was not a spiritual cave of the 3rd-order spiritual vein, with extremely rich spiritual energy, it would probably need to mobilize the spiritual energy nearby to support Daking's breakthrough. The movements in Li Zhirui's cave could be hidden from most of the clansmen, but not from Li Shiqing and Li Xilian. In an instant, They understood what was going on, and their faces showed ecstasy at the same time. A moment later, they appeared in front of Li Zhirui's cave. Zhiru, this movement, is Daking breaking through to the third order. As soon as he entered the door, Li Shiking couldn't wait to ask. Li Zhiru smiled and nodded, saying, yes, Daking finally accumulated everything not long ago, and today he started to break through to the third order. Chapter 228, Overcoming the Tribulation. Take advantage of Daking's breakthrough and take him out of Wanxin Island to other places to break through, Li Shiking said seriously after calming down. Although the third-level spirit beast is equivalent to giant and cultivator, which can make the Li family's strength rise again, and if the family breaks through, it will also boost the morale of the clan members, but it still cannot form a crushing trend against Yuan Mingzhuang. On the contrary, it will make Yuan Mingzhuang more nervous. If he takes risks, it will be troublesome. The Li family still needs time to develop. Li Zhiru couldn't help but frown when he heard it. Daking's breakthrough was too sudden. He was so happy that he forgot about this trouble. As for the location, you don't have to worry. We have moved islands nearby in recent years. I have found an island far away from the mainland with rich spiritual energy. Li Shiking flipped his hand and took out a jade slip. Inside was a very detailed map, and the island he mentioned was specially marked. Li Zhiru used his divine sense to explore and soon found the approximate location of the island, but asked with some doubts, since the island is rich in spiritual energy and is already on the edge of the sea, why is it not occupied by the Sea Clan? Because the island is too small. Li Shiking shook his head and explained, this island is only 1 mile in size, and the spiritual energy is between the second level and third level spiritual veins. The Sea Clan occupies a vast sea area, so how can they look down on such a small island? When he felt the spiritual energy nearby, he was very happy. After all, this spiritual vein can be promoted to the third level with a little cultivation. But when he discovered that the spiritual vein was not entirely in the island, there was also a part that was integrated into the water vein of the sea. The simple island moving magical power could not take this special spiritual vein away, so he had to give up helplessly. However, Li Shiking still wrote down this location in detail because he thought of another use of this island. That is to use it as a place for the family to cross the tribulation. The spiritual energy is rich, so there is no need to worry about a lack of spiritual energy when breaking through. Far away from the mainland, it will not be discovered by Yuan Mingzhuang. With a spiritual island, if there are any members of the family who break through the golden elixir in the future, they don't have to hide in King Shan's house. After all, the cave for overcoming tribulations is not only expensive, but also far less safe than the guardian of one's own family. Okay, Li Zhiru would naturally not refuse this, and called Zhaoqing back with his spiritual sense. A moment later, Zhaoqing landed in front of the 3 people with a hurricane, and then Li Zhiru put Daking in the spirit beast bag in front of the 2 people. He placed a large number of spiritual stones in the spirit beast bag, and the rich spiritual energy in it would not interfere with Daking's practice. After all, he has not started to break through yet. Second grandfather, you can guard the family. Daking only needs me to protect it. After saying that, he turned over and climbed onto Zhaoqing's back, turned into a stream of light, and soared into the sky. God bless my Li family. Li Shiking looked at Li Zhiru's departing figure and said with emotion. Looking back at the development of the Li family. From the initial proposal to open a shop in Yunqingfang City, which made the family earn a lot of spiritual stones, to later becoming the acting patriarch, the family has made greater development. All these things seem to be inseparable from Li Zhiru. Since he came to prominence, the Li family has been like a fish in water, riding the wind. Zhiru can definitely lead the family to a higher level, Li Shilian on the side echoed. They have no doubt about this, because Li Zhiru is only 100 years old now. And this age is still very young for a giant and cultivator with a lifespan of 500 years, and there is enough time for him to attack the Yuanying. Once Li Zhiru really does this, then the Li family will have the foundation to dominate the area. Mainly because of the existence of Shanli Mountain, the original Yuanying force, it is impossible for the Li family to become the most powerful force in a short period of time with a Yuanying cultivator. After all, with their background, they may not have the means to severely injure or even kill a newly promoted Yuanying. You know, thousands of years ago, Shanli Mountain was a powerful force with nascent soul cultivators. It was only in the past few hundred years that no nascent soul cultivators were born. 2 flowers bloom, each showing its own beauty. Li Zhirui rushed all the way and arrived at the edge of the boundless sea in just 1 hour. This was his first time here. He didn't understand how to distinguish between the inner sea and the outer sea before, but the moment he came here, he knew it. The water in the outer sea is azure blue, but the water in the inner sea is blue-black. The two are clearly separated, as if there is an invisible wall separating them. The small island with rich spiritual energy is just to the left of this dividing line, but from the outside world, it is just a small deserted island. This is because after Li Zhirui discovered it, he immediately arranged a hidden formation to avoid being discovered by the water monster, even though it had already been discovered, but it gave up occupying it because it looked down on it. After Li Zhirui entered the formation, he closed his eyes and felt the richness of the spiritual energy. He found that it was just as Li Zhirui said, it was more than enough for a breakthrough. Now, he no longer hesitated, and quickly placed decking in the center of the most concentrated spiritual energy, and he and Zhaoqing helped to protect the law. Of course, Li Zhirui still had a mission to do. He would take time out every year to refine the furnace of Xingyidan. After all, only half of the 10-year period agreed with the Nanaya Chamber of Commerce had passed. Time flies in the mountains, and in the blink of an eye, 3 years have passed quietly. During this period, Li Zhirui and Li Zhilian came several times. Sometimes they came to deliver spiritual medicine materials, and sometimes they came to collect Xingyidan. But no matter what the reason, the most concerned thing is always Decking's situation. Zhirui, when can Decking break through? This day, Li Zhirui came to deliver spiritual medicine and asked the same question again. Soon, after 3 years of practice, Li Zhirui could feel that Decking was not far from breaking through, but the specific time was unknown, maybe 1 month, or maybe 3 months. Then be careful, once Decking breaks through, immediately activate the 1,000 miles transmission talisman to notify us. Li Zhirui gave a warning and turned back to the family. This 1,000-mile teleportation talisman was purchased by the family specifically for this matter. Although it is also a third-level talisman, Li Zhirui has no idea how to make it without a method to refine it. I know, Li Zhirui watched Li Zhirui leave, but he didn't expect that half a month after he left, Decking began to break through. The moment the calamity cloud appeared, Li Zhirui noticed it, and hurriedly took action to remove the formation, erased his own breath, and took Zhaoqing away 10 miles away. It only took him half a quarter of an hour to do all this, and the speed was so fast that even the calamity cloud had not yet fully formed. With Decking's accumulation, a mere golden elixir calamity is not a problem at all, Li Zhirui murmured to himself, as long as no third-level water monster is attracted by the thunder calamity. Thank you for your support. Chapter 229 Thrilling. For the monsters, the tribulation of other monsters is likely to be a feast for them. If the tribulation fails, the monster's body is a great tonic for them. If the tribulation succeeds, the monster that has just broken through is extremely weak. How can it have any strength? It will still become their blood food. However, Li Zhirui has often checked the nearby sea area in the past few years and confirmed that there are no third-level water monsters within a radius of 200 miles, only some second-level water monsters. But despite this, Li Zhirui did not hesitate to activate the 1,000 miles communication talisman and told Li Zhirui about Decking's tribulation. Zhilian, Decking's tribulation is imminent. You will be alone in the family from now on. Remember to be careful. The moment Li Zhirui received the news, he sent a voice message to Li Zhilian, explained briefly, and then flew towards Bailang Island in hiding. Li Zhilian's expression became serious. Although Yuan Mingzong did not know the situation and was unlikely to attack Wangxin Island, there could not be any luck in this matter, otherwise it would be a disaster for the Li family. This is why Li Zhirui and Li Zhilian have been guarding the family for these years. They dare not gamble. With the departure of Li Zhirui, Li Zhilian was very alert, but he could not be too much, so as not to arouse the suspicion of Yuan Mingzong. I hope Decking can survive this calamity safely. At this time, after leaving Wangxin Island, Li Zhirui increased his speed to the limit, and rushed all the way. In just half an hour, he arrived at Bailang Island. At first glance, he saw the island surrounded by lightning. Through the dazzling lightning, you can see that Decking has layers of spiritual light shields to protect him, weakening the thunder. What's the situation? After discovering Li Zhirui's location, Li Zhirui immediately flew forward and asked. Although Li Zhirui's face was nervous, he did not look worried. He said, Decking's situation is not bad. The golden elixir thunder tribulation is not a problem for him. Sure enough, Although the first thunder tribulation was powerful, it was just a rootless duckweed, and it was eventually completely consumed. Daking was in good condition, and his mana was not consumed too much. After all, after so many years of accumulation, ordinary newly promoted giant and cultivators were not necessarily more powerful than him in terms of the amount of mana. Boom! The second thunderbolt struck down instantly, like a giant dragon tearing through space, carrying the power to destroy everything, and pounced on Daking. AWW. Daking raised his head and roared, and a dazzling green light emerged, which instantly turned into countless wooden shields, which emerged continuously to offset the power of the thunderbolt. At the same time, he was surrounded by a water curtain to ensure his own safety. Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui watched nervously from a distance, but they did not forget to use their spiritual sense to observe the surroundings and use their own pressure to drive away the nearby water monsters. Although he had explored it before and found that there were no third-level water monsters nearby, all water monsters were a great threat to Daking now. If he entered the range of the thunderbolt and caused the power of the thunderbolt to surge, Daking would be in danger. Time passed by bit, and the second thunderbolt was also completely consumed. The third thunderbolt fell instantly and sank directly into Daking's body. The moment the two came into contact, Daking let out an extremely painful scream. "What's going on?" Li Zhirui lost his usual calmness due to his concern and asked in a panic. Li Zhirui quickly replied, "The breakthrough of the third level of the monster beast is different from that of us humans. They are not only tempering the Dan, but also the evolution of their bloodline. The two phases are superimposed, and the power of the third thunderbolt has skyrocketed, so this situation has occurred. Bloodline is both a shortcut and a shackle for monster beasts. It can speed up the cultivation speed of monster beasts, but it locks the upper limit of monster beasts. In addition to taking natural materials and treasures, the most common way for monster beasts to break through their bloodline is to use the power of Thunderbolt to refine and purify their bloodline when breaking through the third level. In fact, in addition to these three thunderbolts, monster beasts have an additional thunderbolt, called the shape-changing thunderbolt. As the name implies, only after surviving this calamity can one truly transform into a human form, otherwise it is just an illusion or a trick. However, this calamity thunder can choose the time of landing. It can be together with a golden elixir thunder calamity, or it can be guided later. If 4 calamity thunders are struck at once, then this world is too targeted at the demon race, because in this case, ordinary demon beasts simply cannot survive this calamity. With Li Zhirui pulling him aside, Li Zhirui could only look at Daking anxiously, watching him constantly discharge black blood from his body under the effect of the calamity thunder. His breath was erratic, and his face was full of pain. AWW. This thunder calamity is a test for Daking and also a torture for Li Zhirui. After all, he can only watch his spirit beast suffer from torture, but can't do anything. Daking, you will definitely succeed. Perhaps it was Li Zhirui's shout that encouraged Daking. His breath gradually stabilized, and the surrounding spiritual energy began to gather towards him. Success! Li Zhirui saw the scene and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The calamity cloud turned into pure and rich spiritual energy, which was poured into Daking's body to help him condense the golden elixir, or the demon elixir. Just when Li Zhirui was relaxing, his consciousness suddenly caught a little movement and immediately gathered there. A third-level water demon that appeared at some unknown time pounced on Daking, who was condensing the elixir. It must be said that the other party chose a very good time. The thunder calamity was already dissipating and would not be locked by the thunder calamity. Daking was also concentrating on condensing the elixir with all his strength and was not very clear about the situation outside. Even if he knew, he would not be able to take action in time. Evil beast, how dare you? Li Zhirui was instantly furious, and his right hand grabbed forward. The water and wood divine light emerged and turned into a large net, instantly blocking the way of the water demon. This was a giant claw lobster with a trace of dragon blood. It was nearly 10 feet long and had a pair of terrifying claws. It clamped the net fiercely and broke the restraints immediately. Fortunately, it was stopped for a moment. And the attacks of Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui came again, not giving it a chance to get close to Daking. Humans, this is a fight between us water monsters. If you know what's good for you, leave now, the lobster said in a strange tone. Humph, Li Zhirui snorted coldly, saying, Daking is my contracted spirit beast. Since you dare to attack him, I will kill you. The lobster naturally knew that the two of them had a close relationship with Daking, otherwise it would not have protected him. It was just looking for a reason to attack and delay time. No. It's delaying time. Li Zhirui soon realized that something was wrong. A strong demonic aura was rushing towards them quickly. Second Grandpa, be careful. This demon is at least in the middle stage of the third level, Li Zhirui said solemnly. We just need to hold on until decking forms a golden elixir, at most a quarter of an hour. He believed that the two of them could still do it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230 Promise. Bang! As soon as the second demon beast appeared, it set off a stormy wave. In the huge waves, a deep-sea giant whale of 30 meters in size came on the waves. Horned whale, Li Zhirui's face changed slightly, and his expression became very serious. This is a fourth-grade demon beast. Although it does not have the blood of the dragon clan, it is a descendant of the great Kun that is comparable to it. Even though it has been many generations, the blood is very weak, but this huge body can still show a difference. Moreover, among the demon clan, the larger the size of the demon beast, the stronger their magic power will be. Second Grandfather, be careful. The strength of this horned whale is probably not weaker than the third stage late water demon, Li Zhirui said in a deep voice. When Li Shiking heard this, he knew that he was going to go up by himself, and frowned and said, Leave this giant whale to me, don't worry. Li Zhirui was not showing off, but was confident that he could hold the other party for a while. After that, he pressed his right hand downward, and a tangled aura burst out, changing into two dragons on the way, forming a pair of double dragon scissors. Roar! Although the giant whale was large, its reaction was not slow. It raised its upper body and pressed down suddenly, using a large amount of seawater as a barrier. But under Li Zhirui's attack, this defense was like a piece of thin paper. The moment the two came into contact, it cut it short and attacked the giant dragon unstoppably. Ouch! A deafening cry of pain spread over a radius of several miles, scaring the lobster monster next to it and suddenly changing its face. You know, since the two monsters met, it has never seen a water monster of the same level that made the giant whale so painful, not to mention that their current opponent is only a human cultivator in the early stage of the golden elixir. The lobster monster already regretted it a little. If he had known that these two people were so powerful, he should not have shown up. But in fact, this attack did not even break the giant whale's defense, but the powerful bite of the dragon shears made it feel painful. Li Zhirui had anticipated this, so the moment after the divine light was emitted, he sacrificed his life magic weapon Qianling. White clouds appeared above his head, and mist and tree roots were hanging down for defense. Countless bamboo leaves emitted green light, and a strong murderous aura burst out as they fell, like a sharp sword with sword energy rushing into the sky, covering the sky and shooting at the weaker parts of the giant whale's body. The two moves arrived almost at the same time, and the giant whale had no time to react at all. The eyes, breathing holes and other vulnerable places had been attacked by a large wave of bamboo leaf sword energy. These places naturally did not have as strong defense as the flesh, and wounds and blood began to appear under the endless attacks. Human, you actually hurt me. I want you to die. The giant whale spoke for the first time, and his voice was full of murderous aura. The giant whale suddenly changed into a giant man with a height of more than 10 feet, stepping on a water column and soaring into the sky, holding a strange magic weapon in his hand, which seemed to be made from its horn. When the magic weapon was swung, the sound of tearing the space apart made Li Zhirui's heart beat wildly. When he saw it coming towards him, he dodged to the side without hesitation. As soon as the giant whale made a move, it took an absolute advantage. Li Zhirui had no power to fight back and could only dodge continuously. Fortunately, the giant whale's speed could not keep up with him, otherwise Li Zhirui would not have been unscathed until now, but just looked a little embarrassed. He wanted to delay now. As long as decking condensed the demon pill, they could leave this place and no longer have to fight with them desperately. The battlefield between Li Shiking and the lobster monster on the side was far less intense. Li Shiking had several magic weapons in his hand, and the opponent only had a pair of giant claws and treasure hammers, but the lobster monster was good at dodging. When it saw that the situation was not good, it escaped into the sea, making Li Shiking helpless. He could only keep pestering it and not give it a chance to leave the battlefield. Time passed bit by bit, and the giant whale had already seen through Li Zhirui's plan, but because of his provocation and interference, it had no way to get close to Daking. However, the price of doing so was that Li Zhirui began to get hurt. After all, he did not have enough hard power. How could he not pay a price to entangle the giant whale? Fortunately, Qianling's defense was not weak, and with a third-level defense talisman, his injuries were not that serious. However, as time went on, Li Zhirui became more and more relaxed, because he had already realized that Daking was about to succeed. And this was indeed the case. Not long after, Daking opened his eyes and hurriedly contacted Li Zhirui with his spiritual sense. Although he was just condensing the demon pale and could not move, he was not completely ignorant of the situation outside. "Second Grandpa, Daking is awake. It's time to go," Li Zhirui shouted loudly. Then he stretched out his hand and pointed at the giant whale, and a colorful divine light exploded instantly. The surrounding world was rendered in blue and green, and it was unclear what was happening around. Li Zhirui moved his body, first sending Daking back to space, and then used his magical powers, and together with Li Shiking, he merged into the breeze and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Damn human! After the magical power dissipated, the giant whale looked at the empty world and howled to the sky, and waves were raised around it, showing how angry it was. Li Zhirui, who had shaken off the two water monsters, immediately released Daking and asked nervously, "Are you okay?" "It's okay." Although Daking had broken through the golden elixir, he had not yet refined the horizontal bone, so he couldn't speak directly. It was only after his spiritual wisdom was greatly opened that he learned to express clearly with his spiritual consciousness. "That's good," Li Zhirui breathed a sigh of relief. Li Shiking on the side asked, "Daking, what magical power did you awaken?" "Unlike the human race, as long as the monster beast breaks through the third level, it will awaken a magical power, or even more. Because the magical power of the former is a gift from heaven, and the requirements are strict, while the magical power of the latter is engraved in their blood. As long as they reach a certain stage, they will naturally awaken, just like the spells that Daking learned from his blood at the first and second levels. A defensive magical power, thousands of trees become a mountain. Even if it is transmitted by voice, you can hear how happy he is." When Li Zhirui heard this, he showed a thoughtful expression on his face and said, "So, the bloodline you strengthened this time is the wood element spirit turtle side. Daking is from the Kingston Turtle clan. The bloodline of this clan has two sources, the water element black turtle and the wood element green turtle. And from the magical power he awakened, Daking's future evolution direction should be the green turtle side. It's just that compared with the 5th grade black turtle bloodline, the 4th grade green turtle bloodline is more than a little weaker. But things have come to this point, and bloodline evolution cannot be controlled." So although Li Zhirui felt regretful, his face did not show any, but said happily, "The magical power of thousands of trees becoming a mountain has a very strong defensive power. In the future, my safety will be protected by you." "Okay," the concise and clear answer, but it took a lifetime to prove his promise. While the few people were talking, they also returned to Banyan Island. Chapter 231 Surprise. Back, the moment they landed on the island, Li Zhilian flew out and noticed at first glance that the two and Daking's breaths were unstable. It was understandable that Daking had just broken through, but what happened to Li Shiking and Li Zhirui? What happened? Li Zhirui immediately told them what happened, and at the end he smiled and said, "We are all back safely, don't worry, the things have passed, and although they were a little dangerous, fortunately they were not too bad." Li Zhilian didn't say anything more, just said, "I'm glad you are okay, just dealt with a big battle, go back and rest, then I'll leave first." Li Zhirui was not polite, and said goodbye and turned to leave. He was still suppressing the mana that Daking transmitted after breaking through the third level, and he had to refine it as soon as possible. After Li Zhirui returned to the cave, he released Zhaoqing and said to Daking, "Next, I will have to work hard to discipline Zhaoqing and tell him not to be lazy all day, so that his cultivation will stagnate. Daking has already broken through the third level, you should also work harder. I don't ask you to reach his level in a short time, but at least you have to break through to the late second level." He didn't make any requirements before because Zhaoqing's accumulation was not enough, but in these 3 years, it has already been perfected. It's just that because Daking is breaking through, he still has to refine the Zingin pill, so he doesn't have much energy to discipline, so Zhaoqing is still in the middle of the second level. "Don't worry, I will restrain Zhaoqing, Daking agreed readily, but Zhaoqing, who was used to freedom, looked dejected. However, under the military suppression of Li Zhirui and Daking, he had no room to resist. After taking out some spiritual objects needed for cultivation, Li Zhirui entered the quiet room and began to concentrate on refining magic power. During his retreat, several major events happened in the Li family. First of all, Li Zhirui has made it clear that he will resign from the position of clan leader, and the successor clan leader is also confirmed to be Li Changmo. Over the years, with the outpouring of family resources, Li Changmo has successfully broken through the foundation building stage, and he has been with Li Zhirui for many years, and he has learned everything he should learn. And as early as a year ago, Li Zhirui let him try to handle family affairs, not only did not make any mistakes, but also completed it very well. This matter did not cause much trouble in the family, because it was already known to everyone. On the day when Li Zhirui resigned, because Li Zhirui was still in seclusion, he could not attend, but all the clan members were present. Li Zhirui, who has worked hard for the family for decades, is no longer that young. When the seal and list symbolizing the clan leader were handed over to Li Changmo, Li Zhirui showed a relaxed smile, patted him on the shoulder, and said, "You will have hard work in the days to come. I will definitely do my best for the development of the family," Li Changmo promised in front of all the clan members. In addition to this incident, the first spiritual test conference after Li Changmo took office, several children with good qualifications appeared. Perhaps it was an auspicious sign, or perhaps it was just a simple coincidence. The double spiritual roots that had not appeared in the family for many years actually appeared this time. This little girl of the Cheng generation was named Li Chenghu. She had double spiritual roots of fire and wood, and the purity of the fire spiritual root was as high as 70. In addition to her, there were several people with 3 spiritual roots with higher spiritual root purity, and a boy with 3 spiritual roots of wood, fire and earth with a special spiritual body. His name was Li Changrong, and he had a heavy earth spiritual body. The appearance of these outstanding juniors made up for the defect that there was no one to follow up the Cheng generation of the Li family, and also let Li Shiqing and others see that every generation of the Li family could give birth to the hope of golden elixir. As for whether they can meet their expectations, it depends on these juniors themselves. The sun rises and the moon sets, and several months have passed in a flash. And Li Zhirui, who has been in seclusion, has finally refined the ball mana after this period of hard practice and integrated it into his own golden elixir. Even though he had expected this, he was still shocked by the huge mana. Without going into too much detail, just saying that it saved him 4 years of cultivation time is enough to show how much mana he has and how deep Daking's accumulation is. This is a benefit that only the cultivators who have practiced the Wanling Sutra can enjoy. Although it takes a lot of resources to cultivate a contracted spirit beast, there are also many benefits. If Zhaoqing also has such a foundation, it would be great. After saying that, Li Zhirui shook his head. He knew in his heart that this was impossible. Not to mention Zhaoqing's temperament, he couldn't stand loneliness at all. Just talking about his own situation, it was impossible for him to accumulate such a huge amount of mana. Li Zhirui walked out of the quiet room and found that Zhaoqing was practicing with his eyes closed, and Daking was next to him, staring at him while breathing in and out spiritual energy. He didn't disturb them, but just looked at Daking, thinking about how to help him further evolve his bloodline. Although the thunder tribulation purified his bloodline, it was far from reaching the level of improving the grade, that is to say, he is still a 3rd grade spirit beast. Daking's current cultivation is already the upper limit of his bloodline. If he wants to continue to break through and become the 4th level, it is extremely difficult, even with Li Zhirui's help. If we talk about it a little further, after Daking reaches the 4th level, there is no way to go. Because the source of this road, the green turtle, is only the 4th level. Li Zhirui frowned. He was powerless to do anything about it now. He could only suppress his worries and wait for the future. He did not disturb the cultivation of the 2 pets. In addition, he had not refined the Xingyin pill for several months. The stock in the family should be almost exhausted. He had to hurry up to refine some. 2 flowers bloom, each showing its own beauty. In the main hall of the Yinfeng cave sect in Shifangzhou, the head and elders gathered together, but their faces were uglier than each other. "I don't know how long this silence lasted," and the head said, "Are you sure?" This news was not deliberately released by Shanli Mountain. The news sent back by several disciples all said this. A certain black-clothed elder said in a deep voice, The reason why they gathered together and looked so ugly was that a certain elder in the late Jinden stage from Shanli Mountain, who had obtained a copy of Nascent's soul cultivation experience a few years ago, seemed to have some insights and was 50% sure of breaking through to Nascent's soul. Although it was only 50% sure, if it were other late Jinden cultivators, they might not even have 10%. We must not let a nascent soul cultivator be born in Shanli Mountain, otherwise the sect will be in danger, said a certain elder with murderous intent in his eyes. Although this was a bit exaggerated, after all, with the foundation of Yinfeng Cave, a newly promoted nascent soul cultivator could not do anything to them. But what they have in their hands will run out one day. How should they resist the attack of Shanli Mountain then? Thank you for your support. Chapter 232 Recruitment. But have you ever thought that this is the news that Shanli Mountain deliberately spread? A certain elder frowned and said, among the hidden disciples, the highest ranking one is only an inner disciple. Is the news they heard true? Just as they knew that there were people arranged by Shanli Mountain in the sect, Shanli Mountain must also know this. Then what is the purpose in doing this? This sentence immediately made the elder speechless. He really didn't think so much, but simply felt that something was wrong. I wonder what the head of the sect thinks about this, the elder sitting in the first seat suddenly asked. Whether this news is true or false, it must have been spread intentionally by Shanli Mountain. As for the purpose, the head of the sect shook his head and said, I can't see it either. Whether it is true or false, we have to test it, and Shanli Mountain must have expected this. They are very likely to have laid a net and wait for us to fall into the trap. This is undoubtedly an open conspiracy. The reason why an open conspiracy is that no matter what, they can't just sit back and watch. Perhaps the news released by Shanli Mountain was a fake, but if it was true, Yinfeng Cave would be in danger. As soon as this was said, everyone's faces became even uglier, because if they wanted to stop Shanli Mountain, they had to go deep into its territory and look for a place to retreat. At this time, even if they had the Jinden cultivation, it would be extremely dangerous. Let those lurking disciples inquire about the news inside Shanli Mountain, and we will send low-level disciples and the magic cultivators of the vassal forces to look for clues in the outside world. The head of the sect seemed to know what they were thinking and said indifferently. To break through from the Jinden to the Yuanying, a huge amount of spiritual energy is required, and there are not many places in Shanli Mountain that meet the conditions. That's great, the head of the sect is right, the elders echoed one after another. What will they encounter if the Taoist friend dies but the poor Taoist dies? What does it have to do with them? So, on that day, Yinfeng Cave issued a conscription order and sent corresponding magic cultivators according to the strength of each vassal force. As for what to do, Yinfeng Cave did not announce it. But what they didn't expect was that Shanli Mountain had already issued a call for troops and even arranged the assembled people in various places. Half a month ago, on Banyan Island, a strange Jinden cultivator came to the Li family's clan land and said to the two clan members guarding the gate, I wonder if the fellow Taoists of the Li family are on the island? One Heiji from Shanli Mountain is here to visit, please inform him. Wait a moment, senior. The two looked at each other and tacitly sent one person back to the clan land to inform him. Jinden cultivator from Shanli Mountain, Li Shengmo immediately stood up and said, I will go to greet him with Elder Shiking, and please tell Elders Shilian and Zhirui about this. Although the three of them have the title of elders, they do not have the responsibilities of elders. This is just for the convenience of addressing. Mainly with the development of the Li family, more and more juniors have been born. If they use seniority to address each other, they have to think about it before they can remember who it is. Yes. Li Shiking, who happened to not be practicing, frowned when he heard the purpose of Li Chengmo's visit. For some reason, the arrival of this person made him feel a little uneasy. But the other party was the messenger of Shanli Mountain. How could the Li family not see him behind closed doors? Li Shiking had to go out with Li Chengmo, the new patriarch, to welcome this Jinden cultivator. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for a long time. Li Shiking apologized and invited Wan Heiji to enter the clan land. You're serious, Li Daoyao? Wan Heiji was short and fat, and his appearance was very kind. His face was full of smiles. He didn't look like a Jinden cultivator at all, but rather like a mortal businessman. Although the Li family's clan land had been planned, it didn't create any scenery, so there was nothing to see. But in Wan Heiji's mouth, it was a natural beauty that followed the way of nature and returned to nature. It was said that the Li family asked for the way from heaven and earth, No wonder it could develop so fast. After the few people sat down in the main hall, Li Zhirui asked directly, I wonder if you came here with instructions from the sect. Dao guessed right. Wang Hiji nodded, and put away the smile on his face, which was unusual for him, and said, you should know that our sect obtained a volume of nascent soul experience a few years ago. An elder in the sect had some insights and broke through the threshold of breaking the pill and becoming a nascent soul. Li Zhirui and others were shocked when they heard this. They knew about this, but they never thought that there would be a day when it would come true. After all, Shenli Mountain is not without the experience of nascent soul cultivation. Fortunately, several people reacted quickly and immediately congratulated him. Congratulations, Master. From now on, you will return to the Yuanying sect and surpass the Yinfeng cave. Yes, I think it won't be long before we can destroy the Yinfeng cave and expand our territory. Then I'll take advantage of your good wishes. After Wang Hiji laughed, he said, but now there is something that I need your help with. Li Zhirui and others looked at each other. At this point, they had actually guessed the reason why Wang Hiji came to Wangxin Island. I believe that you fellow Taoists also know that if Yinfeng Cave learns of this news, they will certainly try to stop it, and even do whatever it takes to destroy it during the tribulation. For this reason, the sect decided to spread the news in advance and take the initiative to lead them into Wanli's how to ambush and kill those demon cultivators. Wang Hiji continued to speak to himself, but the sect has limited manpower, so a call for the two giants of the Li family was issued. Because this incident happened suddenly, the reward for the call is much higher than before. The corpse of a giant and demon cultivator can be exchanged for twice as many spiritual objects as before. I wonder which two of you will respond to the call. There was no need to ask for their opinions, and he wanted to know the answer of the Li family on the spot. I wonder if you can give us some time to discuss it, Li Zhirui said first. Of course, please go ahead. Li Zhirui and the other two stood up and went to an empty room nearby. As soon as the door was closed, he said, Second Grandpa and I will go. Grandpa Shilian is not good at fighting and will stay in the family. This is too dangerous. Let the two old men go. Li Shilian frowned and refused without hesitation. Li Zhirui is the hope of the Li family. How could he be allowed to go for such a thing? You know, Daking has already broken through the 3rd level. With his assistance and my life magic weapon, even if this trip is dangerous, I can come back safely. But Li Shilian is different. He has neither a 3rd level spirit beast nor a life magic weapon. In addition, he is really not good at fighting and has no experience in fighting. If he is allowed to go, it will undoubtedly bring him into danger. To put it bluntly, he is not even as good as Li Zhirui. At least Li Zhirui has several magic weapons of good quality, but he only has a 3rd level magic weapon, his life magic weapon. Chapter 233 Arrival. Li Zhirui on the side also said, Zhirui is right, and his fighting ability is not worse than mine. He had seen Li Zhirui fight with his own eyes and knew his strength. In addition, Daking had now broken through the 3rd level and awakened a defensive magical power. Even if he could not defeat the demon cultivator, he could still save his life. But if Li Shilian went to fight, it would be really dangerous. Although Li Zhirui is the hope of the family, it would not put another giant and cultivator in danger. But, Li Shilian wanted to say something else, but under the opposition of the two, he had to agree reluctantly. Then I'll trouble you with the family's affairs. Although the various forces were not allowed to fight each other during the conscription period, it was necessary to be on guard against others. It was always good to be careful. The three returned to the main hall, and Li Zhirui said, Dao, we have discussed it. This time, my second grandfather and I will respond to the call. Wang Hiji's eyes flashed with surprise. He thought it would be the two old men of the Li family. After all, small forces generally keep more promising younger generations and let the elders do dangerous things. However, he did not ask any more questions, and only said, the two Taoist friends, please prepare and follow me to Wanli's house. Leave now. Wang Hiji nodded and explained, the situation is urgent. Given the attitude of the demon cultivators towards this matter, they will definitely take action immediately. Well, please wait for a moment. Li Zhirui and the others had no choice but to pack up their things and arrange everything that needed to be explained. The most important thing is that Zingyin Pill agreed with the Nanya Chamber of Commerce. I am afraid there will be some delays, because no one knows how long this matter will last. Fortunately, Li Zhirui had refined a lot of Zingyin pills before, and now the family has a lot of them. However, A large part of them are high-quality elixirs that Li Zhirui specially selected for his family. If they are sold to the Nanya Chamber of Commerce, it will be a bit of a loss. Who made them sell all at the same price because of negligence when signing the contract? The Nanya Chamber of Commerce was well aware of this, otherwise how could the Zheng Yuandan that the Li family brought out be of poor quality? But even if they knew, there was nothing they could do, because this kind of thing was normal among alchemists, and almost all alchemists did this. What Li Zhirui was doing now was to select the Zheng Yuandan of poor quality, and let Li Shilian send it to the Nanya Chamber of Commerce every month. About half an hour later, Li Shiking and Li Zhirui were ready, and the latter suddenly asked, "Dao, we responded to the call of the upper sect. What should we do if someone takes the opportunity to attack the clan land?" Dao, rest assured, Wang Heiji was a smart man, knowing the deep meaning of Li Zhirui's words, and said with a smile, "If other vassal forces take action, the sect will not only help to destroy them, but also give certain compensation. If other forces take action, the sect will also try its best to help revenge and give a lot of compensation. In this way, I am relieved." Then, the two followed Wang Heiji and left Banyan Island. On the way, Li Zhirui asked curiously, "I wonder how many Jiandan monks other forces will recruit." He handed over a bottle of Xingyan. "This is the elixir I refined. Dao is knowledgeable and I am asking for your advice. If nothing unexpected happens, there should be 2 of them. If the number is insufficient, we will recruit additional foundation-building monks to supplement." Since Wang Heiji had said so, he might as well say a few more words, saying, "The 2 Daoists are from the same clan and were arranged together by the sect. We are going to the place where the 2 Daoists will hide next." The main reason why he was willing to say so much was not because of the bottle of Xingyan, but to give face to Li Zhirui, a 3rd-level alchemist. It's not that there are no 3rd-level alchemists in Shanli Mountain, but those people are arrogant and proud. Even if he has a little status in the sect, he has to beg humbly. But Li Zhirui is different. Although he may not be able to refine other 3rd-level elixirs now, he's young. He is only 100 years old, and he still has another 300 or 400 years to live, and he has a good talent for alchemy. When the time comes, if he needs any elixir, it will be convenient for him to ask Li Zhirui to make it. The place you 2 Taoists want is called Bicket Peak. It is a well-known 3rd-level spiritual mountain in Wanli's Hao. It has rich spiritual energy and has the tendency to be promoted to the 4th level. It is not far from Yinfeng Cave. Li Zhirui said gratefully, "Thank you for your advice. If I can help you in the future, just ask me." It seems that there is no content in those words, but in fact, they said a lot. The name indicates that the demon cultivator knows this place, the rich spiritual energy, and the tendency to be promoted to the 4th level, indicating that this place can accommodate the golden elixir to cross the tribulation, and the distance from Yinfang Cave is to tell them that this place is not safe. Wang Heiji smiled and nodded. Isn't this what he wants? In the next few hours, the 3 of them talked happily, as if they arrived at Bicket Peak in the blink of an eye. "We have arrived at Bicket Peak. I should also report back to the sect. I wish you 2 Taoist friends good luck and safety." After saying that, Wang Heiji activated the spirit boat again and turned into rainbow light and left. "First, set up a concealing formation and act carefully. We don't ask to kill the demon cultivators, but just get through this safely." After he left, Li Shiking emphasized, "Although Shanli Mountain is the main sect of the Li family, what does it have to do with them? There is no need to fight for it. Of course, if the nest is destroyed, there will be no eggs left. If Yinfang Cave rises and Shanli Mountain is weak, the Li family will not have a good end. But the current situation is obviously inconsistent. Now it is Shanli Mountain that is powerful and will suppress Yinfeng Cave. And if Shanli Mountain really has a Yuanying cultivator again after 100 years, it is actually a bad thing for the various vassal forces. Because after Shanli Mountain's strength increases greatly, it can better control various places, instead of the current situation, where it does not have too strong control over marginal forces like the Li family. Don't worry, second grandpa. We don't seek to make any achievements, but we just want to avoid mistakes," Li Zhirui agreed. Although Shanli Mountain has offered a generous reward for this, for the current Li family, other spiritual objects, except for the foundation building elixir, are not very attractive. Because the spiritual objects offered by Shanli Mountain are all those given to the newly promoted Jiandan forces, and after these years of development, the Li family is about to get out of it, and naturally it is impossible for them to fight for it like Li Shiking did in the past. I don't know how long this will last, Li Zhirui sighed. He didn't want to waste his precious time on something that would not benefit himself or his family. Thank you for your support. Chapter 234 Test. Half a month has passed. Why is there still no movement from Yinfeng Cave? Li Zhirui frowned, his face a little ugly. Because during this period, they had no way to practice, mainly because the movement of giant and cultivators during practice was too loud and would be seen at a glance, so they could only hide in the narrow space of the formation, or polish their magic power, or comprehend the laws, which was very frustrating. Li Mountain said before that it had taken the initiative to leak this matter to Yinfeng Cave, but when did the demon cultivators have such patience? Li Zhirui said coldly, are they playing tricks on us? Li Shiking on the side also looked unhappy, but thinking about the Battle of Li Mountain recruiting various vassal forces, he felt that what Li Zhirui said was unreasonable, so he had to patiently say, wait a little longer. Li Zhirui could only complain a few words in his mouth. If he really wanted to let it go, he would never dare to do it. After all, Li Mountain was too powerful. If it used this as an excuse to punish or even wipe out the Li family, it would not take much effort, so he could only continue to wait patiently. On the Li Mountain, in the main hall of the sect, we have discovered that several disciples have channels for transmitting messages. If nothing unexpected happens, Yinfeng Cave will receive it soon. In the hall, except for the head of the sect, only the elder wearing a black mask spoke. Do you want to cut off these channels? The head of the sect shook his head indifferently and said, don't worry. If you cut off the channels now, they will definitely find a way to re-establish contact. It is better to make good use of them now. Yes, seeing that his proposal was opposed, the masked elder's tone was not the slightest bit fluctuating. Send people to follow these disciples in secret and find other undercovers in the sect. After this matter is settled, immediately start to detain them. The head of the sect continued, if there is nothing else, you can go down and do your work first. After he left, two middle-aged giants appeared from the back of the hall. Two uncles, how is the situation of Master Yunli? When are you going to receive the thunder tribulation? The one who broke through to the nascent soul this time was a giant and cultivator 2 generations above the head of the sect. He is now over 400 years old and only has a few decades left before his life limit. There are more than a dozen giant and cultivators like him in Li Mountain, but only he has broken through the threshold of Dan-breaking addiction. Master sent a message to my 2 brothers yesterday, saying that he plans to lead the thunder tribulation to break through after the demon cultivators take action, the older one said. The head of the sect was slightly surprised when he heard this, and blurted out, isn't this too dangerous? You know, at that time, the demon cultivators were in the territory of Wanli's Hao. Once they sensed the fluctuations of the thunder tribulation, they would definitely swarm in and destroy the tribulation at all costs. If the tribulation fails, it is unknown how long it will take for the next Yuanying under Li Mountain to appear. If there is any accident in the meantime, it will be troublesome. The previous experience of Qingshan sect is right next to them, reminding them all the time. If Li Mountain had not taken advantage of the fact that the last Yuanying was still there, it would have forcibly recruited most of the giant and cultivators of the vassal forces, let them fight with a Yinfeng Cave, and weakened their strength first. Otherwise, once Li Mountain weakens, it will probably be dismantled by all the vassal forces. Following the footsteps of Qingshan sect, we too have also persuaded the master, but he insisted on doing so, saying that this is the best time. After the head of the sect calmed down, he seemed to have figured out the plan of the Yunli patriarch. Although choosing to cross the tribulation at that time would attract a large number of demon cultivators to interfere, they took the initiative and could better deal with the demon cultivators. In addition, a large number of vassal giants ambushed in various parts of Wanli state. When they saw the demon cultivators, they would definitely stop them. Moreover, according to the habits of Yinfeng Cave, the first wave of demon cultivators entering Wanli state were definitely cannon fodder to die, and their strength must be relatively weak. The head of the sect told the 2 of them his guess, and suddenly realized that it was no wonder that his master said that strange sentence. As the 3 deployed their troops, Li Mountain began to move. The giant and cultivators and a large number of disciples were stationed in various parts of Li Mountain to guard against the crazy killing of the demon cultivators. On the second day, news came from various places where the vassal giant was ambushing that they had discovered traces of demon cultivators. Bikit Peak was no exception. Second Grandpa, the demon cultivators are coming. Li Zhirui, who had a stronger spiritual sense, was the first to discover the traces of the demon cultivators and immediately sent a message to Li Zhirui. There are 3 demon cultivators in total, 2 foundation building cultivators and 1 giant cultivator. In Li Zhirui's spiritual sense, the giant demon cultivator suddenly stopped and ordered the 2 to go forward to investigate. It seemed that he had noticed something, or perhaps he was always cautious. Don't do it yet, the giant demon cultivator has not entered the ambush yet. Li Zhirui told Li Zhirui about this in time to prevent him from alerting the enemy. The 2 foundation building demon cultivators walked towards Bika Peak in fear. When they went a certain distance deep, the alarm bells on the mountain suddenly rang. It was the dozen or so disciples of Shanli Mountain station here who discovered their presence, and a mountain protection formation was instantly activated. The 2 of them heaved a sigh of relief when they saw this, because it meant that there were no giant cultivators in the mountain. If there were only some foundation building cultivators, then they were not the ones in danger. Senior, there are only some foundation building cultivators in the mountain, and there is no sign of a large amount of spiritual energy flowing. The giant demon cultivator who was several miles away from here narrowed his eyes when he heard this. It seemed that this place was not the place chosen by the cultivators to cross the tribulation. Thinking of this, a hint of murderous intent and greed suddenly appeared in his eyes. These foundation building cultivators were all excellent materials. Not to mention that there were a large number of spiritual objects in the mountain. Although he thought so, he did not approach the Bika Peak, but sent 2 third-level refined corpses to control them to attack the mountain protection formation. Li Zhirui and the others frowned when they saw this scene. This demon cultivator was too cautious. Second grandfather, I will stop him later. You can choose the right time to act. I don't ask to kill him, but at least you have to show some performance and injure him. They did not force to kill a demon cultivator, but who knew if there was a backup plan hidden in the Shanli Mountain nearby? If Shanli Mountain saw them doing nothing, or deliberately letting the demon cultivator go, and then settled accounts with them later, then the Li family would still be in trouble. Okay, I know. Li Zhirui understood what he meant instantly, restrained his breath, and continued to hide in the formation. Li Zhirui soared into the sky, and a spiritual light was like a giant stick that smashed down, directly knocking the 2 corpses away. Sure enough, the demon cultivator muttered to himself when he saw this scene. He had just wanted to go forward and break through the formation himself, but as soon as his mind moved, his spiritual senses began to beat wildly, as if he would encounter a life and death catastrophe as long as he got close. So he changed his mind without hesitation and sent out 2 corpses to test it again. Chapter 235 Helpless. It seems that Li Zhirui is only in the early stage of Jinden, and his strength is not as good as his, but the attack just now made him dare not have the slightest idea of ignoring it. You know, the corpses are famous for their strong bodies. The physical strength of a good quality corpse is not much worse than that of a body cultivator. But even so, his 2 corpses suffered several small wounds on their bodies under the attack of the opponent. If he had stepped forward and faced this attack just now, he would probably be seriously injured on the spot. Senior, save me. 2 terrified cries for help made him sober up instantly. Looking up, he saw that the 2 foundation building demon cultivators were being swallowed by the spiritual light, and their bodies were quickly dissipating. He could have saved the 2, but he didn't do so, because the other party had no relatives or friends with him. They were just 2 ordinary foundation building disciples of the sect. Why should he waste precious mana for them? Not to mention them, even if they were his disciples or descendants, he might not have taken action. It is said that the demon cultivators are as cowardly as mice. I always thought it was a derogatory statement, but today, I found it to be true, Li Zhirui said sarcastically. The demon cultivator didn't care about such words. As long as he could save his own life, what did his face matter? And he was sure that there must be tricks near the Bika Peak, so he didn't step forward and continued to control the 2 corpses to attack. Under his control, the corpses became much larger, and there were wisps of black air lingering all over their bodies. With sharp teeth and claws, they looked much more ferocious than before. Li Zhirui used the divine light to transform into a giant stick again, trying to smash them away, but this time, the giant stick was actually blocked by them together. Li Zhirui's expression did not change. The opponent had been strengthened once, but he weakened his attack, so it was normal to be blocked. After some attempts, the divine light suddenly changed, and a thick rope tried to tie up the 2 corpses. Bang! But after only a moment, the divine light was forcefully broken free by them, and turned into a star-like spiritual light. dissipating between heaven and earth. It seems that I underestimated you. As he said this, Li Zhirui's hands flew, and a series of magic formulas were quickly cast. Countless vines rose from the ground, trapping the two of them. Due to the possibility of surveillance cameras on Shenli Mountain, Li Zhirui was unwilling to expose his full strength, especially the water and wood divine light he had used before. It was obviously a divine power given by heaven, and it did not require any magic formulas to be used, but he just pretended to do it in order to confuse Shenli Mountain. When he was in the dam formation ceremony, the golden elixir sent by Shenli Mountain to the banquet specifically asked him if he had a divine power given by heaven, which aroused his vigilance, so he lied at that time. In the case of insufficient strength of himself or the Li family, Li Zhirui would naturally not expose himself, otherwise wouldn't that be deceiving Shenli Mountain? The demon cultivator immediately became alert and immediately called back the two refined corpses to guard him. Swish! Li Shiking made his move. A faint sword light suddenly appeared, as if it had traveled through space, and went straight through the corpse and headed for the demon cultivator. The demon cultivator's soul was in a state of panic, and he mobilized his magic power to activate his life magic weapon. A thick and tall bronze bell grew in the wind, and fell upside down, completely covering him. Ling. The sword light collided with the bell, and a harsh magic sound filled the ears of Li Zhirui and Li Shiking. For a moment, all kinds of distracting thoughts emerged in their minds, and the magic power was running obscure. They had to stop the attack and suppress the distracting thoughts. Second grandfather, this giant bell is a bit weird. There is a restriction that disturbs the mind, Li Zhirui said helplessly. As long as they attack, the giant bell will ring. They don't know if the demon cultivator is okay, but they will be disturbed by the magic sound, so they have to stop and solve the magic sound first. Sure enough, the demon cultivator's methods are weird, and he actually refined such a weird magic weapon. Li Shiking was very helpless about this. They didn't have a magic weapon to resist a magic sound. Then let him go, Li Zhirui said in a voice transmission. Since they couldn't do anything to him, it would be better to let him go instead of wasting time here. Anyway, they tried their best. But they hadn't figured out how to keep silent and not let Shenli Mountain think that they let him go on purpose. The demon cultivator used his magical power, turned into a ray of black light, and disappeared into the earth. Is this the art of earth escape? Li Zhirui's eyes flashed with eagerness. Although they had a King Fang escape method in their hands, it was much weaker than the earth escape, and the earth escape was more applicable and more concealed. If he had known that the other party had this magical power, Li Zhirui might have exposed his own strength to keep him. Of course, the other party was proficient in the art of earth escape, and he had no way to restrain it, so it was impossible to keep him. What a pity, Li Shiking also sighed. After packing up a bit, the two flew to Bika Peak. Across the formation, they said, "We are from the Li family of Banyan Island, and we are here in response to the call. Two seniors, I have received a message from the sect, asking you two seniors to leave immediately and rush to Li Mountain." A foundation building disciple who seemed to have the highest status stood up and said respectfully. Li Zhirui frowned slightly and asked, "Do you have any evidence? We can't travel thousands of miles just because of your words, and if this leads to the attack of the demon cultivators, we will become sinners." In fact, he didn't care about the situation of these cultivators and Bika Peak. Their life and death had nothing to do with Li Zhirui. He just wanted to confirm it, so that Shenli Mountain would not blame him if something unexpected happened. "This is the seal of the head of my Shenli Mountain. Senior, can you confirm it?" As he said that, he took out a piece of gold paper with a vermilion seal on it. The content on it was exactly what he had just said. Then he saw him inject magic power into the gold paper, and a shadow of a seal flashing with various colors of lightning appeared. One Li God Seal. This is a 4th-tier magic weapon, and also the seal of the head of Shenli Mountain. Since the upper sect has given the order, we will naturally obey it, Li Zhirui said. And recorded it with a photostone, and then left this place with Li Shiking. On the way, Li Zhirui thought for a long time, and suddenly said, "Second Grandpa, do you think that person is preparing to cross the tribulation at this time? Otherwise, how could he arrange it in advance, and summon us to Li Mountain after repelling the demon cultivators, only if he is preparing to cross the tribulation, in order to resist the obstruction of a large number of demon cultivators? Will he prepare all this early?" Li Shiking was stunned when he heard it, but thinking along his guess, it was indeed the case. Next, I'm afraid it will be the most dangerous time. Li Zhirui couldn't help but sighed, full of helplessness. When the Li family was weak, they had to obey the orders of Yuan Mingzong. Now that they have gotten rid of Yuan Mingzong, there is still Shanli Mountain above them. Not only did they not become more free, but the constraints have become greater and greater. Thank you for your support. Chapter 236 Thunder Tribulation. Perhaps only when a Yuanying cultivator is born in the Li family can they completely get rid of the situation of becoming a vassal of other forces. Li Zhirui shook his head, suppressed this unattainable thought, and focused on flying towards Wanli Mountain. About half an hour later, the two came to the mountains. There were clouds and mists formed by spiritual energy between the mountains. Some of them looked like barren mountains, while others were covered with grass and trees. Looking out, a towering mountain that went straight into the sky came into their sight. Is that Wanli Mountain? Li Zhirui murmured to himself. Apart from other things, the mountain itself would bring a terrifying sense of oppression, making people feel short of breath. Two Taoist friends, please follow me. Just a moment after they appeared, a giant cultivator flew in front of them and said very directly. In order to deal with the upcoming thunder tribulation, all the cultivators of Shanli Mountain, including the giant cultivators who have always been high and mighty, were mobilized. The situation was urgent, so naturally there was no extra time for them to chat. Thank you for your help, fellow Taoist. Li Zhirui and the other two looked away and said politely. The two followed behind, and no one spoke on the road until a quarter of an hour later, when they stopped in front of a mountain peak. The giant said, the place where I am standing now is where you two Taoists will guard next. I hope you two Taoists know that this place cannot be lost, and we must not let the demon cultivators break through here. Li Zhirui and Li Shiking's faces changed drastically. The former asked gloomily, if other places are lost and the demon cultivators have already invaded them, can't we retreat? The giant didn't take Li Zhirui seriously at all. A trace of sarcasm flashed in his eyes, and he said indifferently, you two will obey the orders of the sect at that time. After that, he flew away. Second Grandpa, Shanli Mountain is treating us as abandoned children. Li Zhirui gritted his teeth and whispered. If the person who crosses the tribulation successfully crosses the thunder tribulation and achieves the nascent soul, and they are still alive at that time, then they can save their lives. But if he fails to survive the tribulation and dies under the thunder tribulation, then their fate will be death. It is possible that he died at the hands of the demon cultivators, or it is possible that he died at the hands of the cultivators of Shanli Mountain. Especially the latter, although the Li family has never experienced it before. Shanli Mountain weakened the major vassal forces last time, but it is not difficult to see what Shanli Mountain is planning from its current actions. You know, where they are, there is a third-order formation that looks quite extraordinary. On the surface, it is used to fight against demon cultivators, but the final control is in the hands of Shanli Mountain. They can easily seize the control and use it to kill them in turn. With such cruelty, no wonder Shanli Mountain can stand firm. Instead of being divided up by the Qingshan sect and eventually going to destruction, Li Shiking's face was full of sorrow. Then, he said with emotion, if I had known it would be like this, I should have agreed to let Shi Lian come instead of you. The two old men had reached the end of their road, but Li Zhirui had not. And they firmly believed that as long as he was still alive, the Li family would rise one day. Second Grandfather, don't say such things anymore. Li Zhirui shook his head, his expression became firm, and said, I believe we can definitely escape this disaster. Li Shiking nodded, and secretly decided in his heart that no matter what, he would send Li Zhirui back to the family alive, and he must not let him die here. Hurry up and recover your magic power, there is still a hard battle to fight next. The two stopped talking, sat cross-legged, and began to absorb the spiritual energy between heaven and earth and the medicinal power of the elixir. At the same time, just a few dozen miles behind Li Zhirui and the others, a terrifying section suddenly broke out on a mountain shrouded in clouds and mist. It started, the head of Shanli Mountain and a group of elders saw the scene and said in unison. There was excitement, tension, envy and jealousy on their faces. Besides them, Li Zhirui and other cultivators also noticed this. Most of them looked angry, unwilling, and helpless. Because Li Zhirui was not the only one who came to that conclusion. Most of the others also saw it. It's not that they didn't think about resisting, but as soon as they entered the territory of Shanli Mountain, they were taken away alone and then sent directly into the formation, without giving them the opportunity to contact privately. Besides, even if they joined hands, Could they really overthrow the oppression of Shanli Mountain? Although the number of giant and cultivators on both sides was almost the same, don't forget that this is the gate of Shanli Mountain, and this is their home court. Rumble, a thunderous roar cleared everyone's distracting thoughts, and they all looked up at the huge calamity cloud that was several miles in radius. A dazzling golden lightning streaked across the sky, and the originally dark sky was also illuminated into golden glow. Even though they were dozens of miles apart, the terrifying power of the first thunderbolt still frightened some giant and cultivators, and those foundation-building cultivators were so frightened that their legs went limp. Is this the Yuanying Thunderbolt? The giant thunderbolt can't be compared to it at all, Li Zhirui said with a pale face. This was the first time he saw the Yuanying Thunderbolt with his own eyes, and he watched it so closely. The thunderbolt that seemed to destroy the world left a deep impression on him. And there are 6 Yuanying Thunderbolts. According to the law of increasing thunderbolt power, I don't know how terrifying the last thunderbolt will be, Li Shiking couldn't help but sigh. If there were no demon cultivators coming to attack, this tribulation would be a good opportunity to observe and learn from experience, Li Zhirui muttered softly. Although he absorbed the ideas and insights of a late giant and cultivator about breaking through the Yuanying, he didn't know much about thunderbolts. This was indeed a good opportunity. It was a pity that there were demon cultivators interrupting. You observe the thunder tribulation first, and I will stop the demon cultivators. If I can't hold on any longer, I will use the photo stone to record it. I just don't know if this will work, Li Zhirui nodded. This was the best way. Thank you for your hard work, second grandpa. The demon cultivators who were originally in various parts of Wanlizhou and those closer to Wanli Mountain all sensed the existence of the thunder tribulation. They sent messages without hesitation, contacted other demon cultivators, and prepared to gather more people to go there. After all, it was the gate of Shanli Mountain, and there were a large number of vassal golden elixirs. If they went there with just a few people, what was the difference between that and sending themselves to death? Damn Yinfeng Cave, damn Shanli Mountain, you two families are fighting, but you let us fight to our death, a young demon cultivator roared indignantly. The other demon cultivators had no reaction to this, and calmly waited for the arrival of a large number of demon cultivators. Because they had long been accustomed to it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Crazy. Especially some older giant and demon cultivators, they are more familiar with the methods of Yinfeng Cave, they know that they have no chance of resistance. Because they have been set up by Yinfeng Cave since the moment they started practicing. In a hidden place in their danshan, there is a tiny black dot that is barely detectable, and this is the work of Yinfeng Cave. In fact, no one noticed something wrong at the beginning, but in a certain action later, Yinfeng Cave took the initiative to expose the matter and threaten the giant and demon cultivators at that time. Although they tried their best to silence the mouths and prevent the spread of the news, some news was still circulating privately. And danshan is their source of power. How important is it? How dare they do it casually? It's not that there were no cultivators who wanted to crack it before, but without exception, they all died suddenly. So even though they knew about it and even knew that there was a problem there was no way to solve it. In this regard, Shanli Mountain's methods were not so obvious, and they pretended to be bumbling. But in fact, it's just the difference between a real villain and a hypocrite. Time passed, and in just a moment, a large number of demon cultivators gathered here, looking at the calamity clouds in the distance with solemn expressions. They all knew where that place was. Although it was not the core area of the mountain gate of Shanli Mountain, it was not too far away. If nothing unexpected happened, there should have been a net of heaven and earth there, waiting for them to dive in. They didn't want to die, but Yinfeng Cave didn't give them the right to refuse, so they could only attack the place of calamity. Demon cultivators. Dozens of giant and demon cultivators. There are also hundreds of foundation-building demon cultivators rushing towards us. A giant and cultivator at the forefront changed his face and hurriedly used his magic power to spread the sound. All the cultivators tensed up instantly, and the magic power in their bodies was running wildly. One spell after another was ready to be launched, just waiting for the demon cultivators to enter the attack range. Rumble. As the third calamity thunder fell, the demon cultivators also appeared in front of all the cultivators, followed by a torrent of spells that covered the sky and the sun. Li Zhirui saw that Li Zhirui was not disturbed and was still concentrating on observing the thunder tribulation. A trace of relief flashed across his face, but it was soon covered by a touch of determination. For the future of Li Zhirui and the future of the Li family, he must persist for a while so that Li Zhirui can gain more insights. So when he made his first move, he did not go all out, but simply slashed out a sword energy and mixed it into the collective spell. Li Zhirui was able to use sword energy not because of his high talent in swordsmanship, but because he had the cultivation of the golden core realm. The demon cultivators had already expected to encounter an ambush, and the moment they saw the spell, they cast the defensive spells they had prepared. But even so, many demon cultivators were crushed into pieces the moment they came into contact with a torrent of spells, and their flesh and blood flew everywhere, blurring the vision of many people. Forward. Can't retreat. I have notified Yinfeng Cave and other fellows, and they will arrive soon, a skinny old man shouted loudly. You all know the methods of Yinfeng Cave. If you flee in the face of the enemy, do you want to experience what it means to be worse off than dead? Seeing that persuasion was useless and many demon cultivators were still defeated, he simply threatened them directly. It must be said that for demon cultivators, reason is never as useful as fists. After this, a large number of demon cultivators stopped, with a sad face, and walked towards the place of tribulation with the magic. Why are these demon cultivators so crazy? Don't they fear death? Some younger cultivators saw this scene and said in fear and shock. No, they can't help themselves, the giant cultivator on the side said with a complicated look. And what is the difference between us and them? However, this sentence was too quiet and did not reach the ears of others. Demon cultivators fall every moment, from the foundation building at the beginning to the first giant and demon cultivator just now. Because of insufficient mana, the defensive spell he cast was not strong enough, and he died. But they have also achieved brilliant results. They are now less than 20 feet away from the cultivators. After casting a large number of spells, most of the foundation building cultivators now have very little mana left in their dantian. The elder of Shanli Mountain, who was farther away, said with disdain, "What a bunch of trash, it's only been a short time, and they can't hold on. Let the key training and foundation building disciples do it. After all, the next wave of demon cultivators from Yinfeng Cave is coming soon," the head of the sect said lightly. It's not that he was worried about the safety of these cultivators, but he was worried that after the first line of defense was broken, they would have to face the demon cultivators in their turn. Yes, several elders responded and left. Soon, a large number of low-level disciples came behind the defense line built by Li Zhirui and others, casting spells one after another, and all kinds of spiritual lights hit the demon cultivators. Damn it, it's already the fifth tribulation thunder. It looks like that person still has some strength left. If he really lets him survive the sixth tribulation thunder, we'll all die. Why haven't the others arrived yet? Because of this wave of support, several giant and demon cultivators died, and the demon cultivators' strength was further weakened. With the remaining people alone, it was a problem whether they could hold on, let alone move forward. This is the only way. Only by holding on, there is a glimmer of hope. A trace of cruelty flashed in the eyes of the skinny demon cultivator, and he stretched out his hand to grab the several foundation-building demon cultivators next to him. Senior, what are you going to do? Please let me go, but their pleading didn't work at all. In the end, when they were desperate, they began to curse each other crazily. But the skinny demon cultivator didn't have any emotion. The huge mana poured into their bodies, directly seized control of their bodies, and then threw them towards the cultivators' defense line. Bang! He knew that the cultivators would not let him have his way, so he directly exploded the bodies of these demon cultivators halfway. The physical body of the foundation-building demon cultivator, plus the magic power of the giant and demon cultivator, together formed a blow with a power far exceeding some magical powers. Seeing this, the other giant and demon cultivators all started to fight. As long as they could survive, what did the life and death of others have to do with them? The foundation-building demon cultivators were all in danger, fearing that they would be captured next and turned into human bombs, becoming the great contributors who pushed forward and broke through the defense line. Li Zhirui, who was watching the tribulation before, was also awakened by the continuous explosions. Second Grandpa, what's going on? But just as he asked the question, he saw the crazy actions of the demon cultivators with his own eyes. Li Zhirui did not explain when he saw this, but said, "Did you gain anything from watching this thunder tribulation? One thing, I'll tell you in detail after returning to the family. Now let's resist these crazy demon cultivators first. Thank you for your support." Chapter 238 Stalemate. While the two were talking, a middle-stage giant and demon cultivator rushed in front of them and said in a cold voice, "I advise you two to leave as soon as possible, otherwise you will surely perish here. It is unknown what kind of accident happened in Yinfeng Cave, and no one has been sent to support it so far. Of the hundreds of demon cultivators before, there are less than 100 left. Moreover, among these dozens of people, more than half are foundation-building demon cultivators who were left behind by the giant and used as human bombs. In other words, the demon cultivators who are still alive now are either highly skilled or extremely powerful." Li Zhirui ignored the threat of the demon cultivator and said to Li Zhirui, "Second grandfather, let's join forces to deal with this demon." Li Zhirui said in a deep voice, "You attack me and I assist you. Be careful." Seeing that the two of them ignored him, the old demon of the ghost skeleton was furious, his eyes full of murderous intent, and he shouted, "You two want to stop me? You really don't know how to live or die?" As soon as the voice fell, the old demon of the ghost skeleton opened his mouth and spit out several gray-black magic lights, which grew against the wind and expanded several times in the blink of an eye. One by one, the terrifying ghost heads that seemed like illusions and real rushed towards the two of them. Li Zhirui's face remained unchanged. He pointed to the sky, and in an instant, the wind and rain started to blow. It rained heavily within a radius of 10 feet around him. He saw that his 10-finger magic formula changed, and several thick water dragons slowly took shape. After the dragon heads took shape, they opened their mouths and roared, exuding an amazing momentum, and pounced on the ghost heads. The two objects were entangled in fighting. The ghost head was a magic weapon made by the old demon using countless resentful skulls. It was nurtured by him for many years. Its power was extremely great, and the water dragon was no match. But because of the heavy rain as a supplement, the water dragon's body could be quickly repaired even if it was beaten to pieces. As a result, an incredible drama was staged on the battlefield. A magic weapon with a great reputation was blocked by a seemingly ordinary spell. The ghost skull old demon's face was very ugly. He thought that he was a great demon cultivator in the middle stage of the golden elixir. Because of resisting the previous attacks, his mana was consumed too much. Now he was evenly matched with a cultivator in the early stage of the golden elixir. If he could go back alive, he would definitely become the biggest laughingstock in Yinfeng Cave. But what he didn't know was that these water dragons looked ordinary, but they were Li Zhirui's divine power. It was just that the latter deliberately concealed it in order not to attract too much attention. Just as the old demon was about to further activate the magic weapon, an emerald sword light rushed over and slashed at the ghost skull old demon at an extremely tricky angle. The old demon never forgot that there was a giant and cultivator beside him. When Li Zhirui made his move, he noticed it. When he found that the sword light was slashing towards him, he decisively moved his right hand forward. A gray-black magic light appeared, and the two collided. A clanging sound rang out, and then the magic light rose up a lot of mist, and finally corroded the sword light. Although the ghost skull old demon couldn't break through Li Zhirui and the others for the time being, even if he didn't have much mana left, he could easily fight 1 against 2. However, the old demon knew in his heart that it would definitely not work if he continued like this, and he was determined to pour 30% of his mana into the ghost head. The ghost head, which received a lot of mana, instantly became more imposing, and the originally empty eye sockets suddenly flashed with a terrifying fierce light, and a strange gray flame enveloped them. All raindrops that approached the ghost head would be evaporated instantly, and the water dragon that could originally entangle with it also began to retreat step by step. Seeing this, Li Zhirui's face changed slightly. He felt a strong threat from the gray flame. "Second grandfather, be careful of this gray fire," Li Zhirui hurriedly reminded him, and at the same time, he sacrificed the third-level spiritual sword, swung the sword, and the sword light was integrated into the silk, blending into the heavy rain. At the same time, for the sake of caution, he also cast several defensive spells, and even used his spiritual sense to notify Decking to prepare the magical power of thousands of trees into mountains, and to cast it immediately as long as he was released from the space. "All die," as the old demon roared. The gray fire lingering around the ghost head broke out instantly, breaking Li Zhirui's spell in an instant, and the heavy rain stopped, but the gray fire also dimmed a little. But the ghost head was still unwilling to give up, and with a piercing strange cry, it rushed towards the formation where the two were. Damn it, Li Zhirui cursed in a low voice. If it were placed in other places, he would definitely escape it the first time, but now, they are trapped in this formation used to protect them, and they can't get out at all. There was no other way. Li Zhirui could only burst out his own magic power. Water curtains appeared out of thin air, and then turned into thick black ice, trying to stop the ghost head from moving forward. Moreover, under the crisis of life and death, he no longer hid Daking, the third-level spirit beast. With a thought, he summoned him out of space. Thousands of trees form a mountain, a dazzling green light burst out from Daking's back, and huge trees appeared out of thin air, stacked on top of each other, forming a small mountain of dozens of feet, blocking them. No wonder you dare to stop me. It turns out that there is a third-level monster. The old demon of the ghost skeleton laughed and said, but even so, you can't stop me. As the layers of black ice melted, the ghost head soon came to the wooden mountain, and the defense that Li Zhirui had high hopes for did not resist the strange gray fire for too long. It was burned out of a big hole in just a moment. Li Zhirui's face changed drastically. If Daking's defense couldn't stop it, then they would be in real danger. Roar! Daking roared, and the mana in his body flowed. The previous hole appeared with a little green light and began to repair. Li Zhirui saw this, and a dark light flashed in his eyes. He immediately took out a large number of spiritual objects and placed them next to Daking's mouth to help him replenish his mana. Second grandfather, attack this old demon directly. He saw it a long time ago that the ghost skull old demon did not have much mana. Otherwise he would not have been entangled by him for so long. Moreover, the old demon just burst out a wave. Although he had the advantage in an instant, his mana must have been greatly reduced. On the other hand, Li Zhirui and Daking had never fought before. In addition, Li Shiking was beside them, and there were a lot of spiritual objects to replenish. If they continued to entangle, the ghost skull old demon would definitely be the first to collapse, not them. The two no longer concealed their strength at this time, and one after another powerful spells attacked the ghost skull old demon. The old demon's face suddenly became gloomy. He knew that the other party had grasped his weakness, but he had no way to crack it. You know, the humanoid bomb just now, those foundation-building demon cultivators were just carriers. The most important thing was the golden elixir mana they poured into it. It was precisely because of this that their bodies could burst out with such powerful power. But in this way, the consumption of their mana was too great, and in order to move forward, they had to swallow a large amount of elixir to restore their mana. Chapter 239 Success. The ghost skull demon was no exception. Now he was in a dilemma of insufficient mana, not because he didn't have a magic pill to restore his mana, but because he had swallowed too many magic pills before, and his meridians could no longer bear it. If he swallowed them again by force, his meridians might be broken. Just as the ghost skull demon was hesitant and had not made up his mind, there was a burst of rapid air-breaking sounds behind him. Looking at the extremely ugly faces of Li Zhirui and others, an idea suddenly emerged in his mind, and he turned around and looked. I saw thousands of demon cultivators flying from more than 10 miles away, but in just a few breaths, they appeared behind them. There were more than 100 of these fast-moving giant and demon cultivators. In order to prevent the appearance of Yuanying's engine in Shenlai Mountain, it can be said that Yinfeng Cave is really consuming its own foundation. Whether it succeeds or fails this time, the strength of Yinfeng Cave will be greatly weakened. Of course, this refers to the affiliated forces. If we only talk about the Yinfeng Cave, the demon sect, their losses may not be too great. Because so far, the number of giant and demon cultivators sent out by Yinfeng Cave is only 10. You are finally here. A giant and demon cultivator who was about to collapse breathed a sigh of relief. But some demon cultivators looked very ugly and shouted, "Why haven't you come yet?" The Yinfeng Cave demon cultivator who was leading the group ignored these fellows and said with a smile, "To protect a fellow Taoist, you actually abandoned all the spiritual veins and disciples in the outside world. I don't know what you will think when you look back in the future." The faces of the high-level people in Shenlai Mountain changed slightly. If they didn't understand why they didn't support them at this time, they would be really stupid as pigs. "You are so bold that you dare to destroy the spiritual veins of our sect." The head of the sect was furious, staring at the many demon cultivators with flaming eyes. The spiritual vein is actually a variant of the spiritual stone vein, that is, it can be mined. From what the demon cultivator just said, it is not difficult to guess that they went to attack other spiritual places before, and at the same time arranged a large number of people to quickly mine the spiritual veins. Although they couldn't mine all the spirit veins in the end, it would cause great damage to the spirit veins, and it is very likely to degenerate and even be unable to advance. In other words, after this time, the spirit veins outside Shanli Mountain are useless. Which thunder is this? Asked Baigu, the leader of Yinfeng Cave Jinden. The next one is the sixth thunder. Baigu had expected this, and ordered calmly, there is only the last quarter of an hour left. No matter what method you use, you must destroy this thunder tribulation for me. In fact, after a large number of demon cultivators were ambushed and Yinfeng Cave could not contact those undercovers, they were sure that this was the news deliberately released by Shanli Mountain, with the purpose of weakening the strength of demon cultivators. However, at this time, Yinfeng Cave did not think much about it. After all, they had guessed this long ago, and were preparing to send another batch of Jinden into Shanli Mountain after this incident to consume the strength of Shanli Mountain. When they cross the tribulation, it will be easier for them to destroy the thunder tribulation. But what they never expected was that Yunlei would be so decisive and choose to cross the tribulation when a large number of demon cultivators invaded. By the time Yinfeng Cave received the news, Yunlei had already survived the third thunder tribulation. Knowing that it was very likely that they would not be able to arrive in time, Yinfeng Cave immediately changed their minds. On the one hand, they sent a large number of disciples into Wanlizhao to destroy the spirit veins and slaughter mortals everywhere. They also spread evil methods among the scattered cultivators and even forced them to practice. The main reason why Yinfeng Cave did this was to weaken the strength and foundation of Shanli Mountain, and the spread of evil methods was to make Wanlizhao chaotic. By then, even if Shanli Mountain really gave birth to Yuanying's engine, it would be impossible to attack Yinfeng Cave in a short time. On the other hand, a group of demon cultivators were arranged to see if they could find an opportunity to destroy the thunder tribulation. After all, Yuanying's engine is the foundation. If the tribulation fails and Shanli Mountain does not give birth to Yuanying's engine, it will be good news for Yinfeng Cave. The final decisive battle. Li Zhirui couldn't help but whisper to himself when he saw this situation. As long as they can survive this wave of attacks by the demon cultivators, then they are likely to survive. The reason why it is very likely is because Li Zhirui doesn't know whether that person can survive this tribulation and achieve Yuanying. If they failed, Shanli Mountain might kill these Jinden cultivators for their own rule. Alice, thinking of this, Li Zhirui sighed again, barely put his mood together, and continued to fight the demon cultivators. At the same time when the war broke out again, the last thunder of the Yuanying thunder tribulation also fell. Like the third thunder of the Jinden, this thunder cannot be resisted and must be absorbed into the body to shatter the Jinden and turn it into the natal treasure infant. After the war broke out, the cultivators had the advantage of people and terrain, and were in an absolute upper hand, but with the action of the demon cultivators in Yinfeng Cave, the situation was reversed in an instant. Because in their hands, those foundation-building demon cultivators had no power to resist at all. They were like puppets, woodenly encouraging their magic power, and even igniting their blood and soul, and rushed towards the defense line built by Li Zhirui and other cultivators. The roar and explosion sounded incessantly, and demon cultivators exploded every moment, and the formations on the cultivators' side were blown open one by one. But in a moment, the defense line that had been as solid as a rock and had stopped the demon cultivators for a long time became broken and useless. Li Zhirui and Li Shiking could only watch the formation in front of them being broken, but thinking of the words of Shanli Mountain Jinden before, they dared not retreat with an ugly face, and could only grit their teeth to resist the attacks of the demon cultivators. Fellow Taoists, quickly retreat into the formation. Fortunately, just as Li Zhirui was about to swallow a large amount of elixir and cast the water and wood divine light, the head of Shanli Mountain spoke. Hearing this, Li Zhirui and the other person did not hesitate at all, and immediately turned into a wisp of grease, followed a gap in the formation that opened, and entered the second line of defense built by the monks of Shanli Mountain. And it was not until they came in that Li Zhirui suddenly realized why Shanli Mountain was so kind to let them in. Buzz, a loud sound of wind came from not far away. Li Zhirui and others who escaped looked in the direction of the sound, only to see that the originally terrifying calamity cloud had now turned into a rich spiritual energy, which poured into the body of the old man who was sitting on the ground below, his face as white as gold paper, and surrounded by scorched earth. As the spiritual energy poured in, the old man's face began to turn rosy, his white hair turned black, and his dry body became energetic again. The calamity was successfully overcome. Shenli Mountain has given birth to Yuanying's engine again. Li Zhirui was slightly surprised. He did not expect Shenli Mountain to succeed. No wonder they were allowed in. But soon, he suppressed the strange look on his face and turned it into joy and envy. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 240 After the War. Second grandfather, it looks like we can return to the family alive. Li Zhirui secretly transmitted the message. But if you look closely, you will find that there is actually no smile in the depths of his eyes, but instead he is filled with sorrow. The reason is that with the birth of Yuanying's engine in Shenli Mountain, the strength has risen, and the attitude towards vassal forces will probably not be as friendly as before. At that time, whether it is collecting tributes or recruiting monks to fight, it will no longer be as lenient as before. Those Shenli Mountain disciples will also become arrogant, and if a few dandy boys appear, they may even bully others. The only thing that makes Li Zhirui feel good is that the Li family is far enough away from Shenli Mountain, tens of thousands of miles away, and it should not affect the Li family. Yes, we can go back alive. Li Shiking didn't think so much. After all, the two of them were in a desperate situation just now. Now that they have escaped, he can't care too much. However, when the calamity cloud turned into pure spiritual energy and poured into Yunlei's body, those demon cultivators knew that it was impossible to do anything, so they naturally would not stay and fight anymore, and turned around to flee. Especially those giant demon cultivators, like the 8 immortals crossing the sea, did not hesitate to use means to escape, or turned into bloodlight and escaped hundreds of miles in an instant, or simply disappeared without a trace. Demon head, don't run away, take my sword. This time, it was the cultivators' turn to launch an attack. Some bold giant cultivators who wanted to please Shenli Mountain immediately set up escape lights and chased after the demon cultivators. Li Zhirui and Li Shiking looked at each other and chased after them, but they secretly communicated and said, "Second grandfather, we don't have to really fight with the demon cultivators. Just pretend and show our attitude." I know, the two were very fast, but the demon cultivators used all means to survive, and all kinds of secret methods. Even the two of them could not completely catch up, not to mention that they were just pretending to be in front of Shenli Mountain. Half an hour later, the two returned to Shenli Mountain dejectedly. Not only them, but most of the cultivators were like this. But this also contrasted with a group of cultivators who had gained something, and they couldn't hide their joy. When Li Zhirui and the others returned, the golden elixir, now it should be called Yuanying's engine, had just absorbed the spiritual energy and truly transformed into Yuanying. Disciple Wen Qinglu, Disciple Zhu Bailey, congratulations to Elder Yunlei for surviving this calamity and advancing to the nascent soul stage. He has achieved success in his pursuit of the Tao and will enjoy 1,000 years of life. Nascent souls can live for 1,000 years. Even though Elder Yunlei was already over 400 years old before the calamity, once the nascent soul was completed, it would instantly add another 600 years to his life. Ha 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 ha! A deafening and hearty laugh reached the ears of everyone present. Following closely behind was a terrifying pressure. Li Zhirui felt a flash before his eyes, his heart was beating wildly, and even his blood began to boil. The power of the nascent soul was so terrifying that it was impossible for him to have the slightest resistance with just a momentum. Even his always mysterious spiritual sense began to beat wildly, telling him not to make any moves, otherwise his elixir would be shattered and he would die. I, Yunlei, have been seeking the Tao for 400 years. Today I finally became a nascent soul. Ha 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 ha! With a loud laugh, this true lord disappeared. He should have gone to consolidate his own realm and sort out the gains after breaking through the nascent soul stage. One day later, Shenli Mountain entertained Li Zhirui and other monks from affiliated forces in the guest house. After toasting and exchanging cups, the scene suddenly became quiet with a headmaster's cough. Everyone was waiting for him to speak. This banquet is not only to thank all Taoist friends for coming to help, but also to send you off. This time, Shenli Mountain has encountered a demon disaster, which requires a lot of time and manpower to clean up. There are few idle people in the sect, and I am afraid of neglecting you, so I will not stay for long. Li Zhirui saw that the headmaster was so polite. Not only did he not breathe a sigh of relief like other monks, but he felt a little uneasy. When you are polite to others, you must ask for something. Although it is not accurate, it is the meaning. And you have to know that Shenli Mountain now occupies an absolute advantage, so there is no need to be so polite to them. This demon disaster involves a lot of people. I hope that after you go back, you can gather your disciples and clansmen to strangle these demon cultivators and evil cultivators, so that ordinary people can live and work in peace. As expected, the headmaster's words revealed his purpose. Of course, demon cultivators and evil cultivators are great harms, and everyone has the right to kill them. What can everyone do? They can only agree loudly, and not only that, but also take on this hard job with a smile on their faces. Ho ha ho ha, you are indeed immortal cultivators, everyone flattered again, saying that Shenli Mountain was favored by the way of heaven, that Yunli's Henjin had a smooth road, and that the headmaster was resourceful and could lead Shenli Mountain to the peak. In short, they praised in various ways. Until the giant asked, Senior Wen, I wonder when we can exchange the merit points for killing demon cultivators from the treasure house of the upper sect for spiritual objects. Merit points, like the contribution points of the Li family, are a set of points system, but unlike the Li family, their merit points are more valuable. As these words were asked, the banquet instantly became quiet. After all, this was related to their own interests, so a large number of cultivators looked eagerly at the head of the sect. In addition, many cultivators died on the battlefield to stop the demon cultivators. Shenli Mountain had promised compensation before. In fact, these two people had nothing to do with Li Zhirui, because he and Li Shiking did not kill a giant and demon cultivator. There were many foundation-building demon cultivators, but their value was not high. Don't worry, everyone. A large number of spiritual veins in my Shenli Mountain were destroyed by demon cultivators. Now we need a large number of spiritual objects, so that the spiritual objects in the warehouse are tight. I am afraid that we can't take out so many spiritual objects in a short time. As soon as these words came out, the faces of many cultivators changed immediately, especially those cultivators whose clansmen had died. They did not dare to glare at them, but their faces turned pale and terrifying. Two of them were even shaky and almost unconscious. But don't worry, everyone. When we have enough spiritual objects in Shenli Mountain, we will notify you to come and exchange them. In fact, what he said was not a lie. There were indeed not many spiritual objects in the Shenli Mountain warehouse. To prevent the deterioration of the spiritual veins and to rearrange the formation, a large number of spiritual objects were needed. But among them, the biggest consumption was actually the true Lord Yunli and the previous battle. In order to break through as soon as possible, the former took a large portion of the spiritual objects from Shenli Mountain to improve his own mana and restore mana when crossing the calamity. Needless to say, the consumption in the immortal demon battle was huge. If it weren't for the profound foundation of Shenli Mountain, the two endless array defense lines would never have been successfully arranged. Chapter 241 Awkward. Of course, if you are anxious, you can also apply to the sect, but you need to make a discount. Of course, the compensation for the fallen will be issued in a few days. Seeing the faces of everyone, the head of the sect added slowly. If the compensation for the fallen is also discounted, even if Shenli Mountain has a Yuaning's engine, it will lose the support of the people. I am afraid that no vassal forces will be willing to fight for Shenli Mountain in the future. May I ask, head of the sect, how to make the discount? A giant and cultivator asked impatiently. His family just needs spiritual objects to improve a late foundation building cultivator and let him break through the giant. The demand for spiritual objects is huge. Within 3 days, you have to give 20% off, and within a month, you have to give 10% off. After that, you don't need to give any more. Li Zhirui asked in a low voice, Second grandfather, which plan should we choose? After a month, I just calculated that our accumulated merit points are just enough to exchange for 2 foundation building pills. If we give them in shares, it will not be enough. Moreover, although the foundation building pills are a necessity for the Li family, there is no need to be so urgent. After all, the family still has a few foundation building pills. Moreover, there will be opportunities to obtain merit points in the future. They also need to lead their disciples to clean up the backup left by the demon cultivators near the Shenli Mountain. By then, they may be able to accumulate in exchange for another foundation building pill. After the head of the sect, Wen, announced the share offering, the banquet was coming to an end. After it was over, Li Zhirui and the others set off to fly to Banyan Island. I don't know what the 2 giant and Daoists of Yuan Mingzhuang are like now. On the way, Li Shiking suddenly remembered the Li family's current enemy. At the banquet, because they did not contribute much, they were seated at the back, and they forgot about it for a while, and only remembered it now. I don't know either, Li Shiking remembered, but he couldn't find the figures of Zhang Xianming and Ming Ling. But he never thought that these two would all die on the battlefield. Apart from anything else, the two of them were both in the middle stage of the golden collar. Both of them could survive, let alone these two? Li Zhirui guessed correctly. Zhang Xianming and his brother did not die, but they were unlucky. They actually met two golden core demon cultivators. After going through untold hardships and using up all their mana, they killed one of them and scared away the other one, thus saving their own lives. But when the Yinfeng Cave demon cultivator came to support them, they were unlucky. Because they had no mana, they could not use their magical powers and spells. They could only watch the formation being broken and a large number of demon cultivators rushing towards them. With death imminent, Zhang Xianming had to burn his blood and take Mingling to escape to the second line of defense. But even so, the two were injured by the demon cultivators, especially Zhang Xianming. Because of the burning of his blood, his injuries were very serious and he could not come to the banquet. However, Mingling was decisive and took out all his merit points to exchange for a third-level Wanling Xiangsheng pill, which saved Zhang Xianming's life. In the end, Zhang Xianming survived. But Yuan Mingzong gained nothing from this trip. Speaking of which, Li Zhirui and Li Shiking took turns to control the spirit boat and returned to the Banyan Island in less than a day. Second brother, Zhirui, you are finally back. Li Shilian, who had been worried since the two left the family, finally felt relieved at this moment. You two are not injured, right? Did the one from Shanli Mountain succeed in overcoming the tribulation? Li Shiking shook his head and said, we are fine, we are not injured, but we need to gather some of our clansmen to go to Wanlizhao with us in a while to help Shanli Mountain clear out the demon cultivators. Is it successful? Li Shilian's face changed for a while, and finally he sighed helplessly, as if to comfort himself, and said faintly, it's good that way. Shanli Mountain is still there, and we won't become the cultivation materials of Yinfeng Cave. If there were no Yuanying cultivators in Shanli Mountain, how could Li Zhirui and the others not dare to take a moment to rest, and would leave with the clansmen? Shilian, the family still needs you to guard for a while, but this time we will not encounter any danger, and we will try our best to save the lives of every clan member, although this must be difficult to do in the end. After all, there are some things that even giant and cultivators can't catch up with. Okay, I'll go and gather the clansmen to come. A moment later, all the clansmen of the Li family who were above the late stage of key training came to the square, more than 100 people, including more than a dozen foundation building cultivators. This time, the demon cultivators took advantage of the time when Yunli's Henjin of Shanli Mountain was undergoing the tribulation to destroy the spiritual veins and bring disaster to all directions. Li Shilian briefly explained the cause of the incident, and then said, now the family needs to gather 40 clansmen to go to Wanlizhao to clean up the remnants of the demon cultivators. Are there any of you who are willing to sign up? Ancestor, I am willing to go. As soon as the voice fell, many clansmen came forward, including Li Shiren and Li Shiting who returned to the family. These two elders of Li Zhirui are also the only two elders in the family who have built their foundation. They have been stuck in the late stage of building their foundation for decades and have not found a chance to break through. If nothing unexpected happens, they may stop here in their lives. Good, good, good. Li Shilian saw that he had easily gathered 40 people, and he cheered again and again. You will follow me, because there were elders present. It was not Li Zhirui who came forward this time, but Li Shiking who spoke. After everyone boarded the boat, Li Zhirui greeted them with the courtesy of a junior. Uncle Ren, Aunt Ding, long time no see. Although the order of seniority in the cultivation family is based on bloodline, the cultivation world is based on the first to achieve success, so the situation of Li Zhirui, Li Shiren and Li Shiting is inevitably awkward. And the fact is indeed so. The two elders did not know how to deal with Li Zhirui, who had achieved a golden elixir, and the atmosphere between the three of them became very awkward. But Li Zhirui was not a person who was good at speaking and did not know how to resolve this awkwardness. In the end, he could only say goodbye and leave unhappily. These two are your elders after all. When you were still a child, they were foundation-building cultivators, but now you have surpassed them, so they are naturally upset. At the end, Li Shiking also comforted, but you don't have to take this matter to heart. I know, he was very clear about this rationally, but it was inevitable that he would feel uncomfortable emotionally. Soon, everyone arrived at Wanlizhao, and was assigned an area by the giant and cultivators of Shanli Mountain. They were responsible for clearing out the demon cultivators and evil cultivators. In order to complete the task as quickly as possible, Li Zhirui and Li Shiking had already discussed and decided to act separately. When the teams were divided, in order to avoid embarrassment, Li Shiting and Li Shiren both went to Li Shiking's side. The foundation building cultivators on Li Zhirui's side were all of his generation or his juniors. The methods of the demon cultivators are strange, so you must pay attention to safety and act carefully, Li Zhirui reminded as he flew to the other side. Thank you for your support, everyone. Chapter 242 Cleaning. What should we do now? Once we are discovered, those cultivators will definitely not let us go. In a hidden corner, several cultivators looked terrified, like rats in a gutter, not daring to make any noise. Don't worry, our hiding place is so hidden, they will definitely not find it. We should have left the market earlier if we had known that otherwise we would not have encountered that group of demon cultivators, which forced us to practice evil methods. Although most casual cultivators want to break through to higher realm, they also know what the bottom line is. If they are not in a desperate situation, they will definitely not choose to practice evil methods. After all, cultivators still occupy an absolute dominant position in this world, and demon cultivators are hated by everyone in most places. Okay, it's too late to talk about this now. Let's think about how to survive in their hands. The one with the highest cultivation level scolded in a low voice, saying, I have already investigated the identities of these cultivators. They are not disciples of Shanli Mountain, but from a giant family thousands of miles away. They will not stay for too long. Just wait until they leave. What people fear most is despair without any hope. These words unintentionally brought them a glimmer of hope, even if it was extremely bleak, and gave them the motivation to persevere. In fact, after the war between the two sects ended, a group of demon cultivators who practiced evil methods left the major markets and immortal cities, but some people who did not have time to leave or who were lucky stayed and happened to meet Li Zhirui and others. At this time, Li Zhirui, who was standing on the spirit ship, looked down at the market below. His powerful spiritual sense swept over, but only found a few places with demonic energy. This is too little, Li Zhirui muttered to himself. Li Zhirui, who was standing by, didn't understand, so he asked, what do you mean too few? There are too few demon cultivators in the market. I used my spiritual sense to investigate, but only found a dozen or so. Li Zhirui couldn't help but sigh. No wonder the demon cultivators are endless. With this method of hiding the demon energy, how could they easily cut off the inheritance? Of course, this was just a rough search. If he used his spiritual sense to investigate one by one, he would definitely not be able to hide it from Li Zhirui. But doing so would not only take a lot of time, but also require sealing off the market to prevent demon cultivators from fleeing, which is obviously unlikely. In addition to this market, there is also a fairy city with a larger population waiting for him to deal with. So what should we do now? Li Zhirui immediately understood the trouble they encountered, and suddenly became sad. Li Zhirui was also very distressed. These people practiced a method specially researched by demon cultivators. Not to mention that they seemed to have no problems on the surface. Even if they took action, they could hide their demon energy well. Unless they were willing to expose themselves, or use their spiritual sense to go deep into their danshan one by one to investigate whether there was demon energy. After thinking for a long time, Li Zhirui said, those who hide deliberately are likely to have problems. Catch them first, and after a strict examination, ask them if they know other demon cultivators, if there are any who know. As long as they are confirmed to be correct afterwards, they can be spared once. Zhirui, is this the condition? Li Zhirui was interrupted by Li Zhirui before he finished speaking. He smiled and said, I only said to spare them once, but I didn't say to let them go, so that's it. Li Zhirui suddenly realized and immediately led the tribesmen to capture those hidden cultivators. You are sneaky, and this real person suspects that you are demon cultivators, but I am not a cruel person by nature. As long as I confirm that you are not, I will let you go, but if anyone dares to take action, they will be regarded as demon cultivators and will be killed without mercy. Li Zhirui's cold voice enveloped the sky above the market, and those demon cultivators were terrified. Some even collapsed to the ground, as if they were scared silly, but some flashed a trace of ruthlessness, ready to fight to the death. However, these cultivators, after all, were born in the lower class and did not know the power of the giant cultivators. When they were about to take action, they were discovered by Li Zhirui's consciousness. If it was not for the other cultivators to see that he was not a bloodthirsty person, Li Zhirui would have cast a spell to kill them before they took action. There is also the so-called just cause. The Li family wants to maintain a good reputation among the casual cultivators, so some things must be justified. So when their spells just appeared, there will be a spiritual light that falls from the sky, shattering the spells on their fingertips, and then harvesting their lives by the way. Humph. Don't know what's good for you. Li Zhirui was furious, and his majestic momentum poured out. In an instant, the whole market seemed to fall into darkness. The coldness and murderous aura made all the cultivators panic, and also let them know how powerful the giant's Henren was. At the same time, Li Zhirui sent a message to all the clansmen who were capturing cultivators in the market. Brother, be careful, there must be a lot of demon cultivators hiding among them. Maybe they will suddenly attack and threaten me with the lives of the clansmen. At the same time, this is also a training for the clansmen, because they will definitely deal with demon cultivators in the future, especially when the Yuanying Zhenjin was born in Shanlai Mountain, but Yinfeng Cave was not. According to Li Zhirui's own guess, after the Yunlai Zhenjin consolidates his realm and Shanlai Mountain clears the hidden dangers of Wanli Zhao, he will summon all the vassals to attack Yinfeng Cave. After all, Yinfeng Cave caused such a great loss to Shanlai Mountain this time. If it does not retaliate, how can it gain a foothold nearby? How will the many vassal forces view it? So now let the clansmen experience the methods of demon cultivators in person, so that when a war really breaks out in the future, they can be prepared early. The development of things is just as Li Zhirui guessed. After a demon cultivator was killed by him, it did not completely deter others. They still have a gambling and lucky mentality. When the Li family cultivators appeared in front of them, they attacked brazenly, wanting to capture the clan members alive as a ray of hope for their own survival. Fortunately, they had been reminded by Li Zhirui in advance. Although a few people did not respond in time, they were only slightly injured and not in danger of their lives. Seeing this, Li Zhirui suppressed the idea of taking action and asked the clan members to deal with these demon cultivators. He only brought the other captured cultivators to him and investigated them one by one. Among these people, nearly 70% practiced evil methods, and the remaining 30% hid because they were timid. After finding these demon cultivators, Li Zhirui promised everyone that as long as they gave out the other demon cultivators, he would spare them once. Of course, they were not fools and knew that this matter was not credible, but this was their only chance to survive, so many demon cultivators chose to give out their accomplices in order to seize a ray of hope for survival. Damn it! I forgot to update yesterday. Chapter 243 Gap. After some interrogation, Li Zhirui finally found more than 500 scattered cultivators who practiced evil methods in the market. For this method with only 2,000 or 3,000 scattered cultivators, these more than 500 people are already a very high proportion. Moreover, Li Zhirui believed that there must be demon cultivators among them, but because they were hidden very well, he could not check them one by one, so he hid among them. But he didn't care. Anyway, this was the territory of Shanlai Mountain. It was good enough for him to catch so many demon cultivators, enough to go back and report. What's more, there is a fairy city with a larger population waiting for Li Zhirui. When the time comes, catch 1,000 or 2,000 demon cultivators and go to Shanlai Mountain to exchange merit points. Maybe you can get a few more foundation building pills. It's not that the Li family doesn't want to exchange spiritual objects, pill recipes, exercises and other items, but Shanlai Mountain has many restrictions in this regard. Not only is the price high, but the quality is not too good. The most important thing is that the Li family now has another channel to obtain it. That is the Nanyang Chamber of Commerce, which has been trading secretly for several years. The cooperation between the two families was quite pleasant, so the Nanyang Chamber of Commerce generally would not refuse the Li family's behavior of purchasing the family inheritance method and some precious spiritual objects at the market price. And spiritual stones are nothing to giant force. With the Nanyang Chamber of Commerce, the Li family will naturally no longer pursue the junk taken out by Shanlai Mountain. Speaking of which, after Li Zhirui caught these demon cultivators, one of them said boldly, "Didn't the senior say that he would spare our lives? Why don't you let us go?" "Yes, Senior Li, we are also forced to do so. Those demon cultivators forced us to practice." Li Zhirui didn't know whether they were forced or not, and he didn't want to know. He only knew that these people were all merit points, and that any cultivator who had practiced evil methods would never stop in the future. This is like an addiction. No, it's even more terrible than addiction, because if you don't practice for a long time, the evil magic power that was previously left in the Danshan will riot, making people miserable, and even going crazy and dying. So Li Zhirui would never let these demon cultivators go, and said in a cold voice, "I said I would spare you once, and I had already done it when I caught you, otherwise how could you be alive now?" As soon as the voice fell, a large amount of spiritual light emerged between heaven and earth, and shattered their Danshan and hearts at the same time. Until death, their faces showed horror and anger, their eyes were full of resentment, and their mouths were full of curses, and they had no chance to spit them out. In an instant, the market was filled with strong blood and resentment, and corpses were everywhere. Ugh, such a bloody and brutal scene made many cultivators' stomachs churn, and many people vomited directly. Li Zhirui just looked at it calmly. He had seen scenes that were dozens of times bloodier than this, so how could he feel uncomfortable? It was the clansmen he brought with him, who were the worst in expression, including Li Zhirui, a foundation-building cultivator. In fact, it was not their fault. Although the Li family often organized clansmen to hunt water monsters in the sea, monsters and humans were different after all. Moreover, the people he brought with him were all new generations of the family, who had never experienced a beast fight and had never seen such a bloody scene. Fortunately, the cultivators had strong adaptability. They felt uncomfortable the first time, but their reaction the second time was relatively calm. During the trip to Xianshan, Li Zhirui captured more than 3,000 demon cultivators, accounting for 1/10 of the total population of Xianshan. If compared with the market, this ratio is indeed a bit low, and there must be many demon cultivators hidden among the others. However, Li Zhirui did not explore too much, and even did it intentionally, because the more demon cultivators remained, the more difficult it would be to clean up Shenli Mountain, and the later the battle with the Yinfeng Cave would be. And buying more time is a good thing for both Li Zhirui and the Li family. 10 days later, Li Zhirui and Li Shiking led a group of clansmen and set out on the return journey to Wangxin Island again. Because the Li family captured a large number of demon cultivators, the merit value increased a lot, from only being able to exchange for 2 foundation building pills to exchanging for 5 when they left. After returning to the family, Li Zhirui went straight back to the cave. He had to seize the time and improve his cultivation and strength as much as possible in the next few years. After all, if the 2 major sects really fight, the degree of danger is definitely not comparable to the previous blocking of the demon cultivators. Li Shiking summoned Li Chengmo and told him the news of the upcoming war, asking him to find a way to improve the strength of the tribesmen. Before, Shenli Mountain only recruited Li Shiking and Li Zhirui, but next time, the number of recruits will be more than that. Okay, Li Chengmo didn't say any nonsense and agreed straightforwardly. After discussing with a group of elders, he finally decided to hold a big competition, which was divided into individual competitions and team competitions, which could not only hone their own strength, but also improve the tacit understanding with the tribesmen. As soon as this matter was announced, it was warmly welcomed by the tribesmen, and they signed up very actively. Among them, because there were too many people who signed up repeatedly, the competitions that were supposed to be held together had to be separated in the end. On the day of the competition, Wangxin Island was very lively. Thousands of clansmen gathered here. Even Li Zhirui, who was in seclusion, came out to attend the opening ceremony. It seems that my Li family is really full of talents. There are so many clansmen in the early stage of key training. Li Zhirui sighed. Remember 100 years ago, my Li family only had dozens of cultivators. Although these people are only in the early stage of key training, they are young. They symbolize the future of the Li family. Speaking of which, what are Zixun and Xiaoyu doing now? In his opinion, these 2 are the most likely to break through the golden elixir in the family in the past 30 years. Li Chengru is also possible, but he is a little young and needs to be polished and accumulated. Although Li Shiking does not manage the family, he knows everything about the family. He said without hesitation. Zixun is still training in the outside world, but I don't know if she has broken the bottleneck and broken through the late stage of foundation building, and Xiaoyu, she is now in seclusion in the family, trying to break through the golden elixir. When saying this, Li Shiking's eyes were full of pride and expectation. Li Zhirui nodded slightly. Xiaoyu is very good in both cultivation and character. It depends on when she can seize the opportunity. He had expected the gap between the 2. After all, the gap between them was still very large. Li Zhirui was a sword cultivator with 4 spiritual roots. Although her family supported her, the outpouring of resources was just that. Li Zhirui, on the other hand, was a double spiritual root alchemist. She also practiced a 10,000 spirit sutra and had the blessing of 2 third-grade spirit beasts, plus a lot of resources from her family. If she couldn't get a certain distance from Li Zhirui, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she was a waste. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 Impulse. On Banyan Island, the family competition is in full swing, with a large number of exciting competitions taking place every day. Some clansmen who were unknown in the past have also been valued by the family because of their excellent performance in the competition. Especially those young clansmen, they will enjoy the tilt of family resources in the future, and strive to improve their cultivation as much as possible before the war comes. Zhirui, do you have any juniors you think are good? Li Zhirui asked with a smile. Li Zhirui did not watch the competition from beginning to end like Li Zhirui and others, except for the first few days, that is, he appeared in the finals today. Second grandfather, aren't you embarrassing me? I don't know them very well, how do you evaluate them? Li Zhirui smiled and said, it just so happens that today is the final of the competition. The clansmen who can come here must be quite strong, let's see if there are any who can catch your eye. Li Zhirui didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He just thought that Li Zhirui had a very good character at the beginning, so he said a few words, and never did anything similar again. But this time, in the eyes of Li Zhirui and others, he seemed to be a horse expert who could identify a good horse. As the competition began, the tribesmen on the viewing platform gradually quieted down and looked at the center of the arena expectantly. The 2 tribesmen who competed in the first match today were both at the 9th level of key training, and there was almost no difference in their cultivation. In other words, the tribesmen who could reach this stage were at least at the late stage of key training. There was no such thing as a cultivator in the early and middle stages of key training who had good luck and got to the end by picking up leeks all the way, or possessing rare treasures and extraordinary talents as in the storybook. The fight between the 2 was naturally boring and uninteresting in Li Zhirui's eyes. It was nothing more than casting spells to attack and defend, or summoning contracted spirit beasts to help fight on the side. When they released the spirit beasts, Li Zhirui exclaimed and asked, has the family cultivated enough second-level hybrid spirit beasts? Otherwise, how could 2 people just contract one? That's not the case. But there are more fire-swallowing toads and steel-splitting eagles, while there are fewer black rock giant bears. Li Zhirui, who is in charge of this matter, explained, of the 3 kinds of spiritual beasts we got at the beginning, the first 2 were male beasts, and they gave birth to more each time, especially the steel-splitting eagle, because the family had a jade-billed eagle tribe before, and it has the most offspring. Although Li Zhirui's Zhaoqing later disrupted the situation and expelled the steel-splitting eagle from the eagle group, the family later divided the jade-billed eagle tribe into 2 and continued to crossbreed with the steel-splitting eagle. Although Zhaoqing is higher than the steel-splitting eagle in terms of potential and status, it is at least a 3rd-grade spiritual beast, and the family will naturally not abandon it casually. As for the black rock giant bear, the one we got at the beginning was a female bear, and she gave birth to a maximum of 2 at a time, so that the number of giant bears has not been large until now. Well, because of the appearance of the fire-swallowing toad. Except for some members who are preparing to learn alchemy or refining, or whose spiritual roots are really not compatible, everyone else chose the 2 kinds of hybrid spiritual eagles. But if Li Zhirui had to choose, he would definitely choose the fire-swallowing toad, because its superior bloodline is the 5th-grade spirit beast, the fire-bathing spirit toad. If the luck is against the sky, the spirit toad mutates, the positive pole turns to the negative pole, and a trace of the Taiying jade toad bloodline is born, then at least it is a 6th-grade spirit beast. If the bloodline is a little richer, the grade will be even higher. In addition to these 3 3rd-grade spirit beasts, the family also has several 3rd-grade spirit beasts such as Li Zhirui's Daking and Zhaoqing, Li Zhirui's water spirit turtle and the 3rd-grade fog bird, but now there is only one, and there is no tribe. Speaking of which, while several people were chatting, the fight between the 2 people in the ring was coming to an end. In the end, It was the tribe member who contracted Zhao Qing's descendants who was more skilled and defeated his opponent. There was nothing worth elaborating on in the next few fights, but Li Zhirui did not feel impatient because of this. After all, he is now a high-level cultivator and has seen too many high-level scenery. Naturally, he is not interested in the scenes that can be seen everywhere on the roadside. But soon, a tribe member in the late stage of key training brought him a little surprise. This man is called Li Chengwu. He is tall and strong, and his aura is very fierce. He doesn't look like a cultivator, but more like a mortal warrior. He has extremely rich combat experience. No matter how strong the opponent is, he can easily deal with it. He has even defeated the strong with the weak several times. Moreover, he seems to have another opportunity. He has contracted a rare third-grade iron armored beast. At the same level, its defense is even better than decking. It's a pity that this man is a bit old, Li Zhirui said with a little regret. Judging from his appearance, he should be in his 30s or 40s. At this age, he only has the 8th level of key training. If he is a casual cultivator, he can be said to be of middle to upper caliber, but in the current Li family, which is developing very well, his qualifications are indeed average. When Li Chengmo next to him heard this, a strange look appeared on his face, and he said in a low voice with some embarrassment, "Uncle Jiu, Chengwu is not even 30 years old this year." In fact, Li Chengmo said this to give him face. Li Chengwu is only 24 years old this year. Ahem, Li Zhirui's expression froze, and he cleared his throat unnaturally. Really? Maybe he looks a little too mature. He could use his spiritual sense to detect the other party's born age, but the other party was fighting now. If he did so, he would definitely disturb Li Chengwu and might even cause him to lose. How could Li Zhirui do such a thing? He could only observe with his naked eyes, but he didn't expect to make a mistake. If so, then my Li family may have another golden elixir seed, Li Zhirui said with a chuckle. When the elders nearby heard this, a look of surprise suddenly appeared on their faces. Even Li Shiqing and Li Shilian didn't expect that Li Zhirui would give such a high evaluation. You know, within the Li family, there is a division of clansmen according to their qualifications, from the lowest ordinary clansman to the key clansman, and then the foundation building, and the highest is the golden elixir seed. Those clansmen who will not break through to the late stage of key training until they are 50 years old and have almost no hope of breaking through the foundation building are ordinary clansmen. The key point is that there is hope to break through the foundation before the age of 60, and the next level of foundation can be built before the age of 50. As for the golden elixir seeds, it does not mean that they can definitely break through the golden elixir, but there is such a possibility. But even if it is just a little possibility, it is very important within the Li family. Let's see how he grows in the future. Li Zhirui shook his head, as if he took back what he just said. In fact, after he finished speaking, he felt a little regretful in his heart. Now thinking back, he said those words a little impulsively, a little like he said them to save his face. Thank you for your support. Chapter 245 Feast. However, Li Zhirui's words still made the family's top leaders take notice of Li Chengwu. Especially after he won the first place in the key training period competition, some hesitant top leaders began to think that Li Chengwu might be worthy of Li Zhirui's title of Golden Core Seed. So as soon as the competition was over, he got a lot of resources, and except for those top leaders who knew the real reason, everyone else thought that he was valued by the family because he won the first place. Li Zhirui didn't know about this, because as soon as the family competition was over, he returned to the cave and continued to practice. But some things can't be avoided. For example, the Yuanying ceremony held by Shanli Mountain, for Yanli's Henjin specifically invited Li Zhirui to attend the banquet. One day, a giant and cultivator suddenly appeared in the sky above Banyan Island. He bowed openly and said, "I am Zhang Bufan from Shanli Mountain. I would like to invite Otago's friends to show themselves." Most of the clan members in the clan were awakened. Li Shiqing and Li Shilian flew directly to him, greeted each other, and brought him into the main hall, and asked, "I wonder if Taoist friend Zhang has come here with the order of the sect." After this period of meditation, Ancestor Yanli has consolidated his own realm. For this reason, Shanli Mountain is preparing to hold a grand celebration and would like to invite Taoist friend Li to attend the banquet. Zhang Bufan paused and said, "I wonder if Taoist friend Li's hero is here? He cannot be absent from this banquet." Li Shiqing and the other man's face changed slightly, and said, "Zhirui is practicing. I'll go call him out now." He gave Li Chengmo a look and asked him to arrange someone to tell Li Zhirui about this. At the same time, he asked, "Excuse me, fellow Taoist, why do you say that Zhirui cannot be absent?" Zhang Bufan shook his head. "I don't know either, but I think it's a good thing, otherwise, the Shenli sect would not be so polite." Li Zhirui, who was refining Xingyinden, was disturbed by the outside world. With a bang, the whole furnace of spiritual medicine was ruined. "What's the matter?" But he didn't feel sorry for these expensive spiritual medicines, but immediately stood up and looked at Li Chengmo. Li Zhirui knew that if it was not an extremely urgent matter, the family would not force him to notify him, not to mention that the person who came was the patriarch Li Chengmo. Li Chengmo briefly told him what happened so that he could have an understanding in advance. "I can't be absent." Li Zhirui's heart skipped a beat and he walked quickly towards the main hall. "Hello, Taoist Zhang." He apologized as soon as he entered the door, and said embarrassedly, "I am sorry for not welcoming you from afar. Please forgive me." "No problem." After seeing Li Zhirui, Zhang Bufan looked at him curiously for a few times, but did not find anything special, so he put away his curiosity and said, "In a month, the Yuanying Grand Ceremony will be held in Shenli Mountain. Taoist, you must not be absent." After that, he said goodbye and prepared to go to the next giant force to continue delivering invitations. "Taoist, are there any cultivators like me?" While speaking, Li Zhirui quietly sent a bottle of excellent Xingyinden. "I don't know, but among the dozen or so forces I am going to, there's only Taoist, maybe other brothers have some." Zhang Bufan happily accepted the elixir and then left. After watching the giant cultivator who came to distribute the invitations go away, Li Shiking and others returned to the main hall and looked at Li Zhirui with frowns. "What do you think about Shenli Mountain inviting you to the banquet?" Li Zhirui was just called out in a hurry, and he encountered such an incredible thing, and his mind was a little unclear. After waiting for a long time, he sorted out his thoughts and said uncertainly, "Is it because of decking?" But after saying it, he felt that it was unlikely. Not to mention that Shenli Mountain now has a Yuanying's engine, even if there is no one, it is not so important to him just because he has a third-level contracted spirit beast. In addition to this, there is only the divine power given by heaven. Thinking of this, Li Zhirui immediately sent a message to the two elders. "Maybe they noticed that I have divine power, so they specifically asked me to participate." Although he had tried to cover it up when he used his divine power, it is not impossible to expose it. The two people's faces changed slightly, and they immediately asked the other elders to discuss what gifts to bring to the banquet first, and they got up and went to the back hall to discuss the matter alone. The fact that Li Zhirui has divine power is only known to the three of them in the whole family. What secrets are there about this God-given magical power? Shenli Mountain actually takes this matter so seriously that even a little suspicion has to be verified again and again, Li Shilian said in a deep voice. Li Shiking and the others were also full of doubts, especially Li Zhirui himself. Although he had the God-given magical power, he did not have a deep understanding of it except for fighting, and he did not know what secrets were hidden. "Alice," Li Zhirui sighed heavily and said, "now we can only take it one step at a time, but it is better to keep it secret." Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, it was a month later. Because things were a bit strange, only Li Zhirui attended the banquet this time. Li Shiking and the others wanted to go with him, so that if they encountered any danger, they could take care of each other. But he was blocked by Li Zhirui's words. "With the strength of Shenli Mountain, if they really want to harm me, even if the whole family follows them, they are still not a match for Yanli's engine, so instead of accompanying him to take risks, it is better to stay in the family. If he really encounters any danger, with the two giants and the escape passage under Banyan Island, the family can be saved from extinction." Li Shiking looked at Li Zhirui on the spirit ship. His lips moved slightly, as if he had thousands of words to say, but in the end he only said 4 words, "Come back safely, don't worry, second grandpa, I will definitely come back safely." Before the voice lingered, Li Zhirui soared into the sky, and a ray of spiritual light flew dozens of miles away in an instant. Because he was carrying all kinds of thoughts in his mind, he had no intention of appreciating the scenery along the way. Unknowingly, he came to the gate of Shenli Mountain, Wanli's Hao. As soon as he approached the gate of Shenli Mountain, a giant cultivator came up and asked, "Where are you from? Did you bring an invitation?" Li Zhirui from the Li family of Banyan Island. He handed over the invitation. "So you are Li Zhirui?" The giant looked at Li Zhirui in surprise and said with a smile, "You are now well known in the sect, Li Zhirui was puzzled and didn't understand what he meant. Thanks to the method you came up with before, we were able to easily capture a large number of demon cultivators and prevent them from hiding and causing damage in secret. Li Zhirui was stunned when he heard this. Just because of this? So Shenli Mountain specifically asked him to come to the banquet? Then why didn't Zhang Bufan, who went to deliver the invitation, know the reason? Chapter 246 Surprise. What Li Zhirui didn't know was that Zhang Bufan didn't know the reason because he had just recovered from his injury and happened to receive this task, so he went straight to Banyan Island, which caused a huge misunderstanding in the Li family. I see. Li Zhirui looked like he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Facing the puzzled eyes of the giant, he didn't explain, and followed a foundation-building disciple into Banyan Mountain, the venue for the Yuanying ceremony. It must be said that Shenli Mountain has invested a lot in this regard. The huge square is paved with first-level white spirit jade, and the utensils used by the guests are at least second-level magic tools. The third-level king jade incense is lit, and various spiritual fruits are placed on the jade table. These are just the most basic. For a giant cultivator like Li Zhirui, there are several plates of third-level spiritual fruits and a pot of fragrant spiritual tea on his table. And this is just an appetizer to quench the thirst and kill time for cultivators like him who arrived first. Li Zhirui picked up a spiritual fruit and glanced at the nearby cultivators. He found that all the cultivators present were from vassal forces. Big forces like the Wood Spirit Sect and the Xuanfa Pavilion had not yet arrived. Shen Kinki of the Kangshan Shen family, meet fellow Taoist Li, a middle-aged male cultivator walked up to him and greeted him with a smile. Li Zhirui returned the greeting without knowing why. He had heard of the Kangshan Shen family. It was located to the east of Wanli's Hao. There were 3 golden elixirs in the family. The family had been passed down for thousands of years and was good at making talismans. It was considered a relatively powerful vassal family under the rule of Shenli Mountain. However, because the two families were far away from each other, they had never dealt with each other before. Now that they suddenly came up to say hello, Li Zhirui was still a little surprised. I heard that fellow Taoist Li was young and promising. When I saw him today, I found that it was true, Shen Kinki praised sincerely. Dao are too kind. Li Zhirui felt that this person should have come with a purpose, but he didn't know what it was, so he had to chat with him indifferently. It can be seen that Shen Kinki had done his homework before, and he actually told several stories about the Li family and Li Zhirui. I heard that you are good at refining pills. Li Zhirui's heart moved. This should be the purpose of his visit, and he said calmly, I can only refine some elixirs. Shen Kinki showed a hint of joy. I wonder if you can refine a third-level elixir to increase mana. I'm afraid I will disappoint you. Although I have broken through the giant for several years, I have not succeeded so far because I don't have enough spiritual medicine to practice. Zingidun pill is sold to Nanya Chamber of Commerce, so the Li family will not bring it to the public in the short term. I'm sorry to bother you. After saying that, Shen Kinki left disappointedly. Just to buy elixirs from me? Li Zhirui looked at his back, and a trace of doubt flashed in his eyes. The third-level elixir is relatively precious, but for a Shen family that has giant and cultivators from generation to generation, it is impossible not to buy it. Why did they specifically look for him? After thinking about it, he still had no clue. So he had to put it aside and wait for the arrival of the major forces. Master King Liu of the Wood Spirit Sect brought peaches. 4 masters, send a 4th-level golden patterned ginkgo spiritual tree, wishing Master Yan Li to achieve the nascent soul. Not long after, with a chorus of voices, a full 5 giant monks entered the square. What a big deal! Li Zhirui couldn't help but smack his lips when he heard the gift from the Wood Spirit Sect. The golden patterned ginkgo, a 4th-level spiritual tree, has a fruit that has the effect of pure mana, but this is not its most precious part. The precious thing is that if it can grow for 3,000 years without dying, it can transform into a spiritual root. After evolving into a spiritual root, the effect of its fruit will be greatly enhanced, and it can be used to suppress luck, and it is also a must for opening up the cave. Of course, the method of opening up the cave is extremely precious, and even Shenli Mountain may not have it. But even so, the spiritual root is already very precious just for the first 2 effects. Later, the Xuanfa family, Xuanfa Pavilion and other forces also arrived one after another, and the gifts they sent were as precious as the golden ginkgo. Even the Xuanbing sect in the north crossed the Taixu state occupied by monsters in the middle and sent several giant monks to congratulate. All the immortal sects within tens of thousands of miles have come. Li Zhirui thought silently in his heart. At the same time, he also had a doubt in his heart. Why did the birth of a Yuanying's engine cause such a big commotion? Especially the Xuanbing sect. According to the intelligence investigated by the Li family, it has a mediocre relationship with Shenli Mountain, and even broke out several conflicts. Now it will cross the domain of monsters for this. Ho ha ho ha, accompanied by a thunderous laugh, a thin, hunched white-haired old man appeared on the cloud bed at the top. That seemingly weak body contained a terrifying energy that made people tremble with fear. In Li Zhirui's eyes, it was like a ball of light that gathered a lot of thunder plasma, dazzling, and it was impossible to look at it for too long. I am very happy that you have come from afar to congratulate me, Master Li said proudly. Don't be restrained, let's get started. One by one, the beautiful female cultivators appeared on the stage, twisting their willow waists. Their slender jade hands and white jade plates complemented each other, making all the male cultivators' eyes light up. Raise your glasses, Master Li said loudly. I wish you all a smooth and unobstructed journey. I wish you to become a god and transcend the tribulation and ascend to heaven. Everyone stood up and repeated the words of the monk from Shenli Mountain. Between the beautiful songs and dances, the wine glasses were mixed, and the banquet seemed very lively. Many monks were immersed in it and couldn't extricate themselves. But Li Zhirui remained calm. Fortunately, there were monks like him, so it was not very abrupt. Ding ding ding. About an hour later, a crisp bell sounded, which made everyone sober up. Smart monks knew that the next step of this ceremony was the most important part, preaching. Therefore, many people began to clear their minds and adjust their states to avoid missing opportunities. However, some people felt that this so-called preaching was just saying something unimportant. Just to deal with this inheritance that has been passed down for countless years, and they didn't care. Yunlei, was fortunately blessed by God to break through the nascent soul. I have never been able to get rid of the word thunder in my life. Today, I will tell you about this way and this method, Yunlei's Henjin said solemnly. Thunder is the movement of yin and yang, and it is also called the unity of yin and yang. Li Zhirui was shocked. This Henjin actually meant it and didn't just say something casually to deal with everyone. Faced with this opportunity, how dare he be distracted? He immediately gathered his mind and continued to listen to Yunlei's preaching. Those cultivators who didn't take it seriously before were suddenly shocked and hurriedly cleared their minds to listen to this sermon. But for some reason, they couldn't calm down and concentrate. To them, those sounds of the Tao were all roaring thunder. If you force yourself to listen to the Tao, it will cause your own blood to surge and your distracting thoughts to arise. Thank you for your support. Chapter 247. They knew that Yunlei's Henjin had intentionally prevented them from listening to the teachings. In an instant, regret and remorse filled their hearts, and they looked at the monks around them with envy. Some monks didn't know what they were thinking, and they wanted to disturb other monks with the idea that if they couldn't get it, no one else could get it. But when they started to act, Yunlei's Henjin stopped them and threw them out without a word. At the same time, he used thunder to travel through their meridians, causing them to be seriously injured. If he hadn't shown mercy and spared their lives, they would have been killed. Li Zhirui, who was concentrating on listening to the teachings, didn't know that so many things had happened in the outside world. He only knew that he seemed to be swimming in a sea of thunder, absorbing the thunder laws that he was not familiar with before. But because of his poor foundation, he could not completely construct a group of thunder spells. Just when Li Zhirui was distressed and didn't know what to do, he suddenly realized that he combined his own water and wood spells and the divine power of water and wood with it, and actually comprehended a semi-divine spell, water and wood spirit thunder. The reason why it is called a semi-divine power is that its power is not that strong, and it is a bit troublesome to cast, unlike the release of divine power. However, if Li Zhirui has a deeper understanding of the law of thunder in the future, he may be able to promote it to complete divine power. Of course, even now, he is very satisfied. He has a powerful offensive spell, and because he constructed it, he can express it clearly for other family members to learn. When Li Zhirui opened his eyes, he noticed that a lot of eyes fell on him, and he frowned involuntarily. He seemed to have realized something, causing Yunlei's Henjin to finish his sermon, but he was still not awake. Ha, it seems that my preaching skills are not bad. After a sermon, several friends have gained a lot, Yunlei's Henjin laughed. Li Zhirui was slightly surprised when he heard this. He was the last one to wake up. But at this time, No one paid attention to him. They all complimented Yan Li's Henjin. He also stood up and expressed his gratitude sincerely. After all, if it weren't for Yan Li's Henjin's generous preaching, he would not have been able to comprehend a thunder method. This banquet is over here. The next thing will be discussed by the headmaster. Before he finished speaking, he turned into a thunderbolt and disappeared in front of everyone. Li Zhirui's heart moved. It seems that the coming of the Zhuanbing sect and other major forces to the banquet is inseparable from what is going to be said next. Fellow Taoists, please follow me to the main hall. The headmaster stood up and led the way. This time, it was not the guest reception building that entertained everyone, but the magnificent Shenli Mountain Sect Hall. Perhaps the main hall of the family should also be expanded. Li Zhirui thought silently in his heart. Although the main hall of the family is not bad, with an antique style and a unique charm, it is too small to accommodate too many clan members. Especially now that the Li family is growing stronger and the number of managers is increasing, the main hall can no longer accommodate so many people. You all know how big a threat the Yinfeng Cave, a demon sect, poses to us. From time to time, they come in to destroy the area under our rule and massacre innocent mortals. Seeing that everyone was listening to him carefully, Master Wen's eyes flashed with satisfaction, and he continued, now that Yan Li's Henjin has been born in my Shenli mountain, he is ready to destroy the Yinfeng Cave, and this requires the help of all Taoist friends. I wonder what you think about this. Li Zhirui was not surprised at all. Destroying the Yinfeng Cave was what Shenli Mountain had always wanted to do. It was just that this matter was still related to the forces of Qingshan state, such as Mu Lingzong. After all, the Yinfeng Cave occasionally threatened them. Shenli Mountain should be able to convince them with the pressure of the Yuanying and the inducement. But the Zhuanbing sect, which is tens of thousands of miles away, has no connection with the Yinfeng Cave. Why should it get involved? In this matter, cultivators from vassal forces such as Li Zhirui have no say and can only obey the orders of Shenli Mountain. Dao Yao is right. Mu Lingzong Jinden was the first to speak up and said, if it weren't for the Yinfeng Cave in the middle, our sect would never have developed beyond this. Several other major forces also responded, saying that they would gather disciples after returning to attack the Yinfeng Cave together. Even the Xuanfa Pavilion did not fall behind, but think about it, the demon cultivators were so bold that they dared to intercept the caravan of the Xuanfa Pavilion halfway, which made their transportation cost too high. In fact, everyone present could see that the several forces in Shenli Mountain had already discussed it privately and divided up all the benefits. This meeting was just to notify them. In the end, only Zhuanbing sect did not speak. After a long while, he heard him say, fellow Taoist, don't you think the monsters in Taixuzhao are also annoying? Li Zhirui was stunned. Did Zhuanbing sect want to use the power of Shenli Mountain to take back Taixuzhao? Did Zhuanbing sect not take any action before because of its own lack of strength? Now with Yan Li's Henjin, are they confident that they can recover the lost land? If they are not of my race, their hearts must be different, Sect Master once said in a deep voice, but the monsters in Taixuzhao are powerful. It is impossible for Shenli Mountain to fight on two fronts, and Yinfeng Cave is even more hateful. Did the two families not discuss this matter before? Or did they deliberately put on a show? A trace of surprise flashed across the faces of Li Zhirui and others. The hatred between the two families has been going on for many years. Every cultivator in Shenli Mountain wants to destroy Yinfeng Cave. Now that victory is in sight, how can Sect Master Wen give up this major event that will make him a part of the history of the sect? In this case, to show our sincerity, our Zhuanbing sect will also participate in this battle to destroy the demons, Zhuanbing sect Jinden said with a smile. Sect leader Wen was overjoyed and said, okay. Then my Shenli Mountain will definitely give your sect a satisfactory answer. With the combined power of Shenli Mountain and Qingshan State, Yinfeng Cave was already in danger. Now with the addition of Zhuanbing sect, as long as there is no accident, the Yinfeng Cave, which has been passed down for thousands of years, will probably be destroyed. Then sect leader Wen notified some details. And then directly asked everyone to go back and mobilize manpower. 3 months later, officially declare war on Yinfeng Cave. These 3 months are used to prepare various resources. After all, this is not a previous war, but in order to completely destroy Yinfeng Cave, it is necessary to be prepared for a protracted war. As for whether the news will be leaked out, so that Yinfeng Cave will know and prepare in advance, Shenli Mountain doesn't care about this at all. Because in the face of absolute strength, Everything that tries to stop it will turn into ashes. And they are absolutely confident in themselves. Chapter 248 Prologue. As expected, the news that Shenli Mountain had joined forces with the Wood Spirit sect, Xuanfa Pavilion and other major forces to prepare to attack Yinfeng Cave soon spread. Is Shenli Mountain planning to take action so soon? After hearing this rumor, many casual cultivators were a little surprised. They could guess that Shenli Mountain would definitely take action against Yinfeng Cave, but this was too fast. They started preparing just after the nascent soul ceremony ended, and they actually joined forces with nearby major forces such as the Wood Spirit sect. With such a battle, Yinfeng Cave will definitely not be able to withstand it. Yes, but this is also a good thing for us. With the vast territory of Yinfeng Cave, we can get more resources, some casual cultivators said happily. You think too far ahead. There were also casual cultivators who were more pessimistic and said indignantly, when the war breaks out, we will definitely be sent to the battlefield to serve as cannon fodder. It is not certain whether we can survive at that time. After these words came out, the scene suddenly became silent. Damn Shenli Mountain. If not, before the man finished speaking, the surrounding monks immediately left as quickly as possible to avoid getting into trouble. It was this big commotion that made him realize what he had just said. A trace of fear appeared on his face, and he quickly covered his face and ran away. Because of what he just said, everyone didn't want to continue chatting, and the usually lively restaurant became very dull. However, Li Zhirui, who was still in One Li Zhirui and wanted to buy some spiritual objects before the news spread completely, also heard the news. But what puzzled him was that the news of Shenli Mountain and Xuanbing sect's cooperation seemed to be deliberately concealed. It seems that Shenli Mountain is preparing to use Xuanbing sect as a surprise force to catch Yinfeng Cave off guard. Li Zhirui guessed in his heart. Shaking his head, he didn't think about these things. With the strength of the Li family, he couldn't get in touch with the content of the high level. And at this time, the spiritual objects in many shops rose in price, so Li Zhirui didn't stay in Xiancheng any longer and set off directly to return to his family. After half a day, Zhaoqing landed on Banyan Island, and Li Zhirui used his powerful spiritual sense to notify all the family leaders to go to the main hall to discuss important matters. What happened? It actually made you mobilize so many troops. Li Zhaoqing came the fastest, and his face was full of worry. I'll talk to you after everyone is here, Li Zhirui added. Don't worry, it's not targeting us. After a long while, when everyone was together, he spoke. Shenli Mountain is preparing to take action against Yinfeng Cave. What? So soon? According to everyone's speculation, Shenli Mountain should take at least a few years to clear the demon cultivators in the territory. They are so anxious to take action, aren't they afraid that those demon cultivators will take advantage of the opportunity? Li Zhirui sighed and explained, because they have found allies, they have found several powerful allies, so they don't need to use all their strength to deal with the Yinfeng Cave as we guessed. Are you talking about the Muling sect, the Xuanhou family, and the Lingayan sect? Li Zhaoqing instantly thought of these three major forces. Not only that, there are also Xuanfa Pavilion and Xuanbing sect. Hiss, everyone couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. They could understand the first three, even Xuanfa Pavilion, which was nothing more than using power to pressure and lure them. But why did Xuanbing sect, which was much stronger than Shenli Mountain and had little contact with Yinfeng Cave, get involved in this matter? It looks like a deal between the two families. Xuanbing sect helped Shenli Mountain solve Yinfeng Cave. After the deal is done, Shenli Mountain will also help to recover Texas How, but for some reason, Li Zhirui always felt that this matter was not that simple. The scene was quiet for a moment, and Li Zhaoqing said, these things have nothing to do with us, so don't pay attention to them. Zhirui, you should tell me how many people the family needs to send to participate in the war. 2 giant and true immortals, 10 foundation establishment monks, and 50 key training monks. Li Zhirui said in a deep voice, this is the number of people our Li family needs to send to participate in the war. This is too much. Li Chengmo frowned. It's okay for key training monks. The family now has several hundred people, but the Li family has only more than 30 foundation building monks so far, and this time they have to send 1/3. It can be predicted that with a dangerous degree of this war, the casualty rate will definitely not be low. For low-level monks, it is not impossible to be wiped out. This is the order of Shenli Mountain. We can't disobey, Li Zhirui said with a wry smile. In fact, compared with other forces, the number of Li family is small. For example, Yuanming sect sent 5 more foundation-building monks than them. Of course, the more people participate in the war, the higher the merit value, and the richer the reward after the war. However, the Li family is a family of immortal cultivation gathered by blood, not an immortal cultivation sect. It is impossible to give up the lives of the clan members for a few rewards. Be prepared, prepare a large number of elixirs, talismans and other spiritual objects, and minimize the casualties of the clan members. Li Shiking did not continue to indulge in pessimism, and said in a deep voice, Chengmo, you will announce this matter and let the clan members take the initiative to sign up. Yes, Li Chengmo thought for a while and said, I wonder if we can use casual cultivators to replace the clan members to participate in the war. Many people heard this and their eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, if casual cultivators were used to replace their family members, they would not be in danger of falling. Now the question is, will those casual cultivators be willing to die instead of the Li family cultivators? If the family cultivators participate in the war, there is still a possibility of survival, but if they are replaced by casual cultivators, there is almost no hope. No, just as everyone was imagining, Li Zhirui opened his mouth and gave a cold answer. Shenlai Mountain had expected this a long time ago, so it was specifically stated before that casual cultivators could not be used as substitutes. Because in their eyes, whether it is a vassal force or a casual cultivator, they are all cannon fodder acting as pawns. We can recruit independent cultivators to join our team to gain more merit points, but during the war, we need to provide the independent cultivators with the spiritual objects they need. Li Zhirui added. If an independent cultivator actively responds to the call of Shenlai Mountain and participates in the war, he will receive 5 soul-restoring pills and several talismans every day. If the magic weapon is seriously damaged, he will even be given a standard magic weapon. Forget it then, the family members may not be able to satisfy him, so there is no need to add burden to himself. Li Shiking sighed with regret, and said, when is Shenlai Mountain going to start? 3 months later, during this period of time, the various spiritual objects refined by the family will only be sold after they meet their own needs. Li Shiking exhaled and said, next, I will thank you all for your hard work. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 249 Accident. The fact that the Li family stopped selling spiritual objects was soon noticed by the independent cultivators in Redwood Market. Some independent cultivators speculated that it was because the beast tide had come again, so the Li family did this. But as the Li family took the initiative to spread the news, they learned the truth of the matter. Many independent cultivators became anxious and worried that they would become cannon fodder on the battlefield. If they could still gain something while protecting their own lives when the beast tide broke out, then the battles in Shenlai Mountain and Yinfeng Cave, let alone them, the foundation building and even the golden elixir cultivators would not be able to survive this disaster safely. What should we do? How about we leave temporarily and come back after the war is over? Leave? Where can we go now? Don't forget that the major forces in Qingshan State will also participate in the war. As for places farther away, they are not accessible to these key training cultivators, because they are likely to die halfway. Alice. This is the fate of independent cultivators, an old white-haired cultivator said in a sad tone. At this time, Li Zhirui and others were busy preparing more spiritual objects and had no time to pay attention to these independent cultivators. On the contrary, no matter what, the independent cultivators had no way to resist, and in the end they could only accept the reality. In addition, everyone in the Li family was fighting for this war day and night. Clan members like Li Zhirui specialized in refining various spiritual objects. Except for the necessary rest, they spent the rest of their time refining elixirs, talismans, etc. Those who did not have any special skills either signed up to participate in the war and were now training hard, hoping to seize this time to slightly improve their ability to survive. Or they purchased spiritual objects from various places and ran around to ensure that the family had enough raw materials. Time passed quickly, and more than 2 months had passed in the blink of an eye. Now the talismans and first-level elixirs are almost ready, but the number of second-level elixirs is not enough, especially the third-level elixirs. Li Shiking turned around and asked, Zhirui, have you refined the rejuvenation pill? Li Zhirui replied, it's almost there. I can refine it before the war starts, but I'm not sure how much I can refine. In order to refine the rejuvenation pill as soon as possible, he used the space to produce many third-level elixirs, almost consuming all the spiritual stones in his hand, otherwise it would be impossible to make such a fast progress. Of course, this is also related to the fact that he has refined the Xingyin pill many times. Li Zhirui's alchemy cultivation has already entered the 3rd level, so learning to refine a new 3rd level elixir is not as difficult as it was at the beginning. That's good. The efficacy of the 3rd level rejuvenation pill is stronger, and if there are giant cultivators to help refine the medicinal power, then the seriously injured foundation building cultivators can also take it. If there is nothing else, I will go back and continue to try to refine the rejuvenation pill. There are less than 10 days left before the 3-month deadline set by Shanli Mountain. Li Zhirui does not want to waste precious time, and they can handle these trivial matters. Then you go back first. If there are not enough spiritual medicines, we will find a way to collect them. Li Zhirui nodded and turned back to the cave. The remaining 15 materials should be enough for me to refine the rejuvenation pill, Li Zhirui whispered to himself as his spiritual sense swept across the jade box. First, extract all the 2nd level auxiliary spiritual medicines and use magic power to kill them to prevent a loss of medicinal effects. Finally, it is the turn of the main medicine, a 300-year-old rejuvenation flower. When extracting the rejuvenation flower, you must pay special attention, because the medicinal effect of the rejuvenation flower is very easy to lose, and once this happens, the difficulty of the rejuvenation pill will be greatly increased. Fortunately, Li Zhirui has suffered many losses on this and has not made any mistakes on this. As for the next steps, he is very careful and dare not be careless. As the spells were injected into the furnace, gradually, a strong fragrance of the elixir spread out. It seemed that success was imminent, but Li Zhirui knew that it was far from over. His 10 fingers kept changing, and the complicated and cumbersome elixir spells were printed into the furnace. The elixir fragrance that had previously filled the entire room slowly dissipated. No, to be more precise, it was restrained. When the elixir fragrance completely disappeared, a trace of joy flashed in Li Zhirui's eyes. He knew that he had succeeded in refining it. Without hesitation, he performed the furnace spell and took out several round elixirs from it. Good quality. There was no obvious trace of elixir poison on the round elixir, which could be regarded as a medium quality elixir. Perhaps it was as if there was divine help. After Li Zhirui recovered, the 2nd furnace of elixir was also successful. Although the quality dropped a little, there was one more elixir. Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, it was the day when Shanli Mountain was going to take action against Yinfeng Cave. Second Grandpa, are all the clansmen here? Li Zhirui came in a hurry, and there was still a green color brought by the hard work. In order to refine more rejuvenation pills, he has been working day and night these days. In addition to restoring his mana, he has been refining elixirs the rest of the time. The results are also very good. He refined a total of 44 rejuvenation pills from the remaining dozen spiritual medicines. Later, the family collected 10 more spiritual medicines and obtained another 36 pills, a total of 80 rejuvenation pills. It seems that there are only 8 bottles, but in a dangerous moment, it can save the lives of 80 foundation building clan members. As for the key training monks, even if there are golden pills to help refine the medicinal power, their meridians and Danshin cannot bear it. Fortunately, the Li family has now trained many alchemists and specially refined some effective 2nd level elixirs, so that they will not be injured without elixirs to treat. They are all here. Li Zhirui looked around and found that the number of people exceeded the number stipulated by Shanli Mountain. He also found several familiar figures in the crowd. He said with a little surprise, "Uncle Ren, Aunt Ting, why did you choose to participate in this battle? After all, the 2 of us are unwilling to stop at the foundation building stage. So we want to take this opportunity to risk our lives and perhaps break through the bottleneck," Li Zhiren said with a smile. Li Zhirui fell into silence. This is indeed a good time to break the bottleneck, but it is too dangerous. If you are not careful, you will die. But this is the decision of the 2 elders, and he can't say anything. But why did Li Zhixun come to join in the fun? You are only in the middle stage of foundation building now, and you are still far from forming a pill. Why do you want to participate in this battle? Li Zhirui frowned. Ninth brother, I practice swordsmanship, which emphasizes moving forward courageously and being invincible. This battle is a good opportunity to hone my skills, Li Zhixun said with a smile. Maybe I can break through the bottleneck of the golden elixir and become the 4th golden elixir in the family. Li Zhirui heard this and was silent for a long time, then asked, "Are you sure? You won't regret it even if you die 9 times. Well, I won't regret it," Li Zhixun said with a firm look. Chapter 250 News. We are leaving. It will be your responsibility to guard the family from now on. Keep refining various spiritual objects. Even if we don't need them, we can sell them to other cultivators, Li Zhirui finally reminded. Now that the war has not officially broken out, the prices of various spiritual objects have risen by nearly 2 times. I believe that when the war breaks out, the prices will definitely continue to rise. It is a good opportunity to earn spiritual stones. Be careful, and come back safely, but everyone knows that this isn't possible. In order to protect the young descendants, the tribesmen who participated in the war are all older. For this reason, the family gave a lot of contribution points, which are said to be mission rewards, but in fact, they are no different from buying lives. Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui couldn't agree to this sentence. They said to the tribesmen who watched everyone leave, "Let's go, all of you go back." After that, the huge spiritual ship was activated, quickly climbed up the blue sky, and soon disappeared. Perhaps because of the catalysis of this war, the younger generations of the family no longer indulged in the glory of the family. They began to become more diligent and hardworking, and became more and more concerned about cultivation. Their efforts also paid off in their cultivation. In a short period of time, the connections of these clansmen had made some breakthroughs, and the family was thriving. Li Zhirui and others who were rushing to Li's house naturally did not expect that the family would undergo such a big change after they left. Although there were nearly 100 clansmen on the spirit ship, it was not noisy at all, because everyone was conserving their energy and preparing for this war in their best condition. Especially Li Zhirui, his soul had reached its limit after the crazy alchemy in the past few days, so as soon as he got on the spirit ship, he went straight into the cabin and began to rest. The spirit ship was very fast, and it arrived at the gate of Li Mountain in just half a day. As soon as they stopped, a foundation-building cultivator flew to the front of the spirit ship with a spirit sword and said, "Hello, Senior Li, and fellow Taoists. There are various restrictions inside the mountain gate. Please follow me closely." He did not check the number of people in the Li family, but just saw the big flag with the word Li and the Li family emblem hanging, and went forward to greet them. The Li family's emblem is very easy to recognize. It is a part of the 5 major mythical beasts, such as the dragon, phoenix, and unicorn, and is composed of a badge around the Taoist character Li. "Okay, you lead the way," Li Zhirui nodded. Under his leadership, the Li family came to 3rd-level Sacred Mountain. He said, "Senior, this is the place where you can rest temporarily. If you need anything, you can contact the manager of Lanchi Peak. Don't walk around alone to avoid triggering the ban." Then he bowed and said, "Junior still has to guide other forces, so I'll take my leave first." Seeing Li Zhirui nod, he dared to turn around and leave. After all, he was just a disciple of the Yuanying sect and had to maintain due respect for the Jinden cultivators. It's worthy of being the Li Mountain. It can easily give up a 3rd-level sacred peak for other forces to rest. Of course, this is not a place for only the Li family to rest. There are several teams of Jinden forces on the mountain, but even so, it is very rich. As for those who are building foundations and even practicing Qi, they are not on this spiritual peak. Take advantage of the fact that the war has not started yet, and take a good rest, so as not to have no time to rest in the future. Li Zhirui came out of the cabin at this time and gave instructions. The arrival of the Li family immediately attracted the attention of several other families in the mountain. "Is the new family outside the Li family of Banyan Island?" A white-haired old man curled his lips and said disdainfully, "It's just a family with some luck. After this war, it will inevitably decline. There is no need to visit it and waste time, ancestor." A middle-aged man below said with some embarrassment, "The Li family is now in its heyday, and there is also a 3rd-level alchemist. Maybe someday, we will ask the Li family for help. Besides, it's just a visit and a deal with it first, which doesn't take much time at all. HMPH. How could my Zhou family ask for help from them?" The old man was furious and shouted, "Stop talking. Go back and reflect on it." The middle-aged man could only bow and say yes, but he felt helpless. Although their Zhou family was known as the first family under the Thunder Mountain, there were nearly 10 Jinden cultivators in the family, one of whom was a 3rd-level alchemist. But the strength of the Li family was not bad either. They were barely in the same echelon. It was not embarrassing for him to visit them. It was a pity that the leader this time was the 5th elder, who had a very high self-esteem. Except for his family members and the monks of Thunder Mountain, he looked down on others. In addition to the Zhou family, several other giant forces on the mountain came to the Li family's courtyard. I wonder if you have a third-level healing elixir. After a chat, a giant cultivator suddenly asked. Yes, but not many. The main reason is that the price of spiritual medicine has skyrocketed. My Li family can't afford many spiritual stones, so we can refine fewer rejuvenation pills. I wonder if you are willing to give up? Give me a few rejuvenation pills, another giant cultivator also interrupted, trying to use his power to pressure others. Although they have a lot of third-level spiritual pills, this kind of good thing is naturally comfortable and the more the better. Sorry, we really can't do it, Li Zhirui refused without hesitation. After all, sometimes, a rejuvenation pill may save the life of a clan member. But if you can gather the spiritual medicine, my Li family can help refine it. Everyone secretly complained in their hearts, you have a good idea, you actually want to get something for nothing. If you give the spiritual medicine to the Li family, whether it succeeds or fails, it will be up to him. In the end, they may not get the spiritual pill at all. Li Zhirui saw that everyone was no longer entangled in this matter, and he was relieved. He didn't want to fence so many forces, but it was impossible for him to sell the rejuvenation pill. He immediately changed the subject and asked, you all arrived before me. What do you know about this war? I have heard some news, a giant whispered. It is said that Shenli Mountain is preparing to organize a large army of cultivators, unite the major forces in Qingshan State, and directly sweep across the border area. This approach is not only convenient for cutting the grass and roots, but also saves time. The most important thing is that there is no need to worry about the demon cultivators circling behind and attacking from both sides. But the biggest disadvantage is that the casualties will be very heavy. However, this is not a disadvantage for Shenli Mountain at all. After all, most of the losses are cultivators and independent cultivators of vassal forces. Everyone took a breath of cold air when they heard this. If this news is true, then their situation will become more dangerous. All of a sudden, no one wanted to communicate, and soon someone stood up and said goodbye. It may be to verify the authenticity of the news, or it may be to adjust the strategy. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.